To celebrate 3 years on YouTube and as a push to reach 1,000 subscribers, I've got 2 giveaways. The first giveaway is a commemorative plate from Franklin Mint of John Wayne, the Duke. And the second giveaway is a figure of Bebop from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. To win any of these two, just put in any of my videos, put a comment with either hashtag the Duke or hashtag Bebop. The draw will be done once I've reached 1,000 subscribers, so good luck, and remember, I'm not old, I'm classic. Hey! Hello boys and girls, lads and lasses, and welcome back to another Let's Talk Geeky. So, let's talk geeky. Yeah, it's been one of those days, it's overly warm. I'm going red, brown, pink, yellow. I think the yellow's just a bit of curry stain. Right. But yeah, it's been warm here. And as somebody reminded us, we don't have air conditioning because we're not used to the warm.
Well, I was watching earlier on Gobby Guy, who lives up Coventry way, and he said he's actually done a series of posts about they've got thunderstorms out that way. He's actually got a track of a thunder and lightning storm.
That's good.
Well, I saw the first one. I
need rain. I was talking to one of the farmers. I was out Friday when we got back. I just went out for a couple of hours up to one of my first permissions, and I was talking to the farmer, and he was saying he'd been driving down and he thought I'd left a couple of the holes I dug, left them out. And then he realised it's the cows because the ground is so dry. Any of the plugs I've put back in, the cows get going for the grass are just pulling it out.
Wow. And
I didn't know cows are diggers.
I didn't either.
Basically, what he says is if there's a bit of ground that looks different, the cows will all go around it and they'll basically stamp at it.
Huh. And
so they basically do. So I've said to him, I'll give because he's the one that's got the cattle, I'll give his fields a pass until later on when the weather turns and we get better. But he was telling us a story because the cows have got a habit of doing that. He says if there's like the grass dies or something, and it's a bit the cows stomp it in. So what he normally does is at night, especially, he'll go around and he's 4x4, the lights blazing, rounding up the cows. And he says one of his friends, to wind him up, posted on the local website, the Facebook page for the village, that because he'd seen him in his tractor with the lights going round the field to try and get them, and the cows obviously had been stamping down a lot of these barren bits of ground. He said he reported that UFOs had been seen in the field and landing sites have been where they landed because there's these big circles of trampled ground. He basically put it on the main page for the thing there that UFOs were seen in the site, and you could actually see the landing pads. I was not myself, and I could see what he was saying because when I was out detecting, I noticed a couple of pot, and I thought either I never filled them in or somebody's been out at night digging up and just walking away and leaving them. And it turns around it's cows as they're chomping the grass, they just go and pull up the big plug. So I said I'll stay away from the field for a while. Well, it's too dry because obviously if I dig a plug, put it back in, the cows will just put it out. Whereas the other field's one that's sheep and it's not as bad. So
we don't have sheep here, but we do still have some cows. The weird thing about where I live is that the rural part of my county keeps getting pushed further and further and further away. And at this point, if you pass a field with cows on it, it's basically a tax dodge because it's rural and you've got cows on it. But the minute the cows are gone, they're going to start building.
Yeah. But it's last week I was at the farm show and it was great because walked down there was a lot of the cows and they were basically all the show cows and stuff like that, the calves, and they were asking people to vote for their favourite, just obviously because it's all the local farmers in the area. So I went round, I was chatting to a few of the farmers that I'd got to know because I'm doing the metal detecting. And there was even a guy shearing sheep. And it was as he was shearing the sheep, he was telling people how you shear it and why you be careful at certain parts and stuff like that. And he put, after he sheared the sheep, and he says, "Look at that," and he was showing the wool, and he says, and he was holding it. He said with the neck, obviously with the sheared round the neck, and he goes, "I could wear this like a poncho." So he's got it, and then he's shearing the other sheep, and he's saying, "I bet you're thinking, Doris, you don't look the same." Because I mean, but by the time he'd finished, he says he's never going to do that again. He didn't realise how hot it would be because it's really hot here at the moment. He had this sheep fleece on, and basically Andy was working, and he goes, "Never again is he going to do that." He thought it would actually have been a bit of fun, but he realised halfway through he shouldn't have done it because he could feel the sweat going pouring out of him. But yeah, but I didn't know about cows digging. They've got a habit, if there's a bit of ground that looks like me, they'll stamp around it and then the hooves will to see what's
no
there.
idea.
I didn't know that either, so, but there you go. That's what happens when you actually talk to people who actually know what they're talking about. So yeah, so I'm going to go up. I found a field that's a Roman road just runs south of it. A suspected Roman road just runs south of it because there's been a couple of things that they expect that they've had a trench in over the last 40 years, and there's two bits. Well, there's three bits, and if I draw the line between the three, it sort of goes south of the field that I've got. But there's been Roman coins and Roman pottery either just north of it or just south of where the road is. So there's a gap north and south of where the road they think it is that Roman coins and Roman pottery has been found. So I'm out. I'm going to go out there tomorrow, and I'm going to hope. So get my name up there. Yeah, I found a coin. Yeah, it's not a 2 pence piece. It's I found my first coin a wee while back, and it was 2 pence, a spendable coin. Then I found what I thought was an old coin, and it turned around it was a button. But it had gold on it, so I found my first gold-ish thing.
Oh, okay.
A gold, basically, it was all encrusted, and you can see 5 wee gold stars. So yeah, fun gold.
If I remember right, I don't think you're going to pick up gold on its own, because I don't think gold's magnetic.
It's very. It's a multi-frequency detector, so you can get ferrous and non-ferrous. Usually, when you're getting it, if it's thicker, like a small chain would be very unlikely unless it was near the surface. But something chunkier.
I thought they worked by detecting magnetic anomalies.
Basically, it can detect ferrous and non-ferrous. That's why iron, as you're scanning, they call iron quacks, because as you go over, you get a high pitched doot, 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 as you're going over it. But if you go over iron, it goes and they call it quacking, and it's for iron. It's because it's usually comes in the simplex about a 4 to a 6, and you can hear it. It's a grunty iron. So most of the stuff I picked up is iron, because sometimes it will grunt, but there'll also be another signal with it, and I know it's going to be iron before I dig it up, because it's a mix of a high pitch and a quack, but it might be something with iron. But it's the same as I picked up a lot of Canslow. Basically, Canslow, I found it's basically watching detectorists. It gives you a lot of the terminology. Canslow is bits of can, slaps of can. You can either find full bits of can, just edges of it, or tops of it, or just bits and pieces. It's fun digging it up, because I picked up one and I thought, oh, this is a signal I've not received before, and I dug it up, and it was a bottle top. Obviously, they must have had stuff for treating the animals, and they put the bottle on and it's fallen off and smashed, so the bottle top's still lying there. It was aluminium, so yeah, it's fun. So I'm getting there, but
Good.
I'm enjoying myself, even though I'm melting. I'm absolutely, when I'm out and about, I'm melting. And the funny thing, the funniest thing is, right? I got one of those wee fold away cushion things. Basically, it's so I can sit and it doesn't get, it's no damp. Which in this weather it doesn't matter. But I've realised that unless I've got somewhere to sit on, like a branch or a rock or the side, and just where I could put it down, sit and have a coffee when I'm having a break, it's fine. But if I'm in the middle of the field and I want to do that, I put it down and then I sit down and then I have to literally and try and get back up off the ground. So I bought myself a wee stool with 3 legs that I can just go click and sit without having to actually feel like the old man turning around and going on my all fours before I stand back up. But that's why I'm out there to get a bit more exercise. But I was out for about 2 hours on Friday, and it was fun. Didn't find any. I found bits of tractor again, or as they call it, a boat, a bit off a tractor.
Eventually, you keep collecting enough of that, and you'll eventually have enough to build your own tractor.
I'm building one out the back at the moment. I found 2. It's either an iron, an old-fashioned bit of an iron, or it's a tooth of a digger.
Yeah, there's a guy who does videos on YouTube, a couple of people, but
this big thing is about that. And it goes to,
they take like old, rusted or broken, a lot of times toys or whatever, and then just refurbish them to make them look.
Yeah, I've seen a few of the websites that do that, because a few of them actually do some of the old. I've seen one doing it with an old. What was it, Captain Scarlet calf?
Yeah,
one, and I've seen him do it with an old eagle. Basically, same idea. He's basically getting bits of plastic and he's basically molding it and stuff like that. Then
I don't think I've only watched any of them. I've seen them come up in my feed. But I mean, I've got a little fold down seat. It's literally it's medieval style. So it's literally 2 frames of wood. When you open it up, it opens up to the canvas is flat. But I partly got that because when we do have a go archery with kids, I was getting down with the little ones and I was having trouble getting back up again. I can sit down. I'm nice and low. I don't have so much problem getting up. I'm not getting up from the ground.
Yeah, it's hard when you're on the ground.
That's exactly what was happening to me. So I went out and I bought that.
Oh, nice. Great idea.
Yeah.
Does it you can hook it over your shoulder?
Yep. And then a wee seat.
Nice.
And then just folds back up and carry strap. And I can attach it to my bag. So, because my bag's got Velcro on it, so it can attach it via the Velcro straps as well.
Yeah.
So it's nice and handy. So that way I don't need to literally and crawl around like an old man. So that was one of my picks of the week. Because obviously some of the stuff I picked up has been less geeky and more detectory.
Well,
like that still.
I mean, depends how you define geeky. I mean, detector it's.
Oh, yeah, whatever. I mean, if you're
kind of geeky,
yeah,
geeky adjacent, perhaps, shall we say?
Nerdy rather than geeky.
I was going to say, is that Neil from Clownfish TV, because he's geeky adjacent? No, if you don't know the channel, that won't make any sense. No, I know what you mean. As you were saying, I mean, I've been watching the things. I mean, I'm not sure there's. I mean, I didn't realise that Good Omens apparently is being dropped all in one go, but I should probably watch that.
Does it surprise you?
I'll be watching that.
Does it surprise you it's dropping in one go? Because they look as if they don't know what they're doing with these stuff.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think because the thing that strikes me as odd is this in this day and age, apparently what they go for, a lot of where they get how popular things are is not necessary from what it's power analytical. It's being talked about. So if you drop something weekly, especially if it's the sort of thing that our sort of thing that's going to get talked about, the genre, if you like, it's going to get talked about. You're going to get you're going to get people talking about it.
See, I was
every
told
week.
that the way they were doing it. I know doing it weekly is you build up the fan base, people telling everybody should watch it and stuff like that. Peter, my dad used to have one of those sticks. Basically the big handle, you fold it out. There's a wee bit at the bottom. It flaps out so the spike doesn't go too far in. And he used to have that when he used to go fishing. So he could walk up and down, just stop and fish. Whereas me, I had the backpack with the stool attached. You just fold it out, and all your fishing gear was under you. But he said I had too much junk, so he had a stick and a fishing rod, and that was it.
Well, yeah, it's just what you need, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the mod because I can't remember what it was that dropped, but something that had a lot of negative publicity beforehand, and that's nearly everything these days. And it got dropped in one go, and the suggestion was that Disney, I think, was dropping it, so we just got forgotten.
Yeah,
so we get
sometimes what they do as well, because the ratings that was what I was told, was they drop it all in the one go because people are more likely to watch it if it's all in the one go. So they can turn around and say it retained 80% of its audience. Rather than doing it weekly, and then people go,
and ending up with 30% of your audience.
Yeah, and that's why. So it's if you put it, if it goes in the ratings, then it appears in the ratings saying this retained 8% of the audience because they dropped it all in the one go, so people just blast through it, even if it's rubbish, because they've already started watching it. Whereas if it's weekly, you're more likely to go, well, it was rubbish, so why stay in to watch it?
Yeah.
So
I wonder. The thing is, something we're never ever going to see is viewing figures for things.
Oh, I know. The viewing figures only count if they're really, really good.
More to the point, viewing figures over time. Like I said, I still haven't watched it, but I would really be interested to see the viewing figures for whatever the heck it was called. It was Jodie's last episode, because I still suspect that there was a massive, great jump in viewing figures for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I don't know, because apparently you've got the cameos. So I'm not sure what point
the thing is as well. I think the whole episode would have been watched the same amount, because people would have heard who's coming back, and they would have watched it because they wouldn't have known it would have been the last minute. It might have popped up and something happened, so people would have probably watched it from the whole thing.
That might have actually had them through, but I do wonder how many.
Yeah,
Peter, I think you're right.
The water cooler moments and things like that, and even like us or Thingmate is talking about it, because how many times do we talk about new stuff, and it's not because it's bad, it's just because it's forgettable.
Yeah.
Whereas we can still talk about stuff that was 40 years ago and remember it, even if we haven't seen it in maybe 10, 20 years. Somebody will mention it and go, I remember so-and-so, because it is still there, because it was so memorable.
Well, so, how many people, I wonder? I suspect maybe changing because everything is available all the time now. But I never saw the original Little Mermaid. But how many people will be talking about
Little Mermaid was great remake, because my kids were young, and I had it even on the Disney tapes. It was the sing-along tapes. It was just all the music.
But how many people in 50 years' time are going to be talking about Rings of Power? Are going to be talking about the Little Mermaid? Are even going to be talking about perhaps the MCU? How many people are,
That's the thing. I think it's all just forgettable. And that's where the biggest problem is. Yeah. It's a case of... But see, the thing is, right, I've always been a binge watcher. Yeah, I would watch it maybe as it was happening at the time. But I got hold of the Detectorists, watched it one after the other. I just watched Sister Boniface, watched both seasons one after the other. And a lot of the times, even when somebody's been saying you need to watch so and so because it's on every week, I'll wait until the end, then I'll binge watch it. I'm okay with binge watching because I'm the type, if I like it, I will rewatch it multiple times.
Yeah.
That's why I can walk in the last 10 minutes of a movie, sit down, watch the end of it, and then rewatch it. Because people say, didn't that ruin it for you? I watch movies repeat all the time. So watching the last 10 minutes of a movie I'd never seen before, then going back and watching it from the beginning, it doesn't ruin my enjoyment because I know the ending of it. Because spoilers don't really spoil it, because once you've seen it, then you're never going to watch it again. That's my attitude. But I'm an old fart, so.
No, I was the same way with Sister Boniface. I actually watched, I saw season 1 last year, and then I watched all of series 2 this year, but I did binge the entire series in one sitting. But it's only 6 episodes, 8 episodes. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Is it 8? I thought it was 10.
No, 6, 8. I don't.
Let's see.
I don't think it was 10.
Let's see. I've got it here.
Didn't feel like 10.
Face. I thought it was 10 each season.
Maybe. Actually, yeah, you could be right thinking about it.
10 for the first season. 10 for the
all right, I'm wrong.
10 for the second. It's just because when
it was Beyond Paradise was only 6 episodes.
Yes.
That's it. Right.
Yeah.
Death in Paradise is still 8. Has been what? 8? It's been 8 episodes, right?
I think so.
I think so.
6 to 8 tends to be for those you go.
Right, that's right. It was 6 early on and then moved up to 8.
I would think that there's a toss up there that it's probably because so much it's filmed on location, on someone like Death in Paradise, they may actually make them slightly longer episodes so they're getting more watches back for the amount of money they've spent getting people out to Martinique, out to Guadeloupe and back or whatever. Possibly.
What's interesting, they were saying the other day, I read an interview with Ralph Little, and he said point blank, we do not use green screens.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if the last episode of Beyond Paradise was on a green screen, but after what Ralph Little said, I'm not so sure anymore.
Well, maybe, I would imagine what they probably did is they probably filmed that while they were filming Death in Paradise. And
Could be.
Probably.
They would have had to actually, yeah.
I mean,
but it's weird that nobody mentioned that Martha and Humphrey were there.
Yeah,
that is surprising to me.
Actually, that's true. Yeah, because I forgot to done that. Yeah.
And especially if they were filming.
The good thing is because the way they did it, it wasn't like it happened at a particular crime was happening. Or so you could tie it to a particular episode. So it could have just been, they could have been there for the 3-4 weeks that they weren't investigating anything significant.
Well, the interesting thing is, I'm sorry.
No, go on.
I was just going to say that they only put up the shack's really not there. They only put it up during the show when they're filming Death in Paradise. So it makes sense that if it was not a green screen for Beyond Paradise, that they would have filmed it at the end of filming Death in Paradise.
Yeah.
Because the shack.
But remember, Ralph Little says in Death in Paradise, they don't use green screens. It's not saying that Beyond.
Right. Very true.
They didn't. It basically doesn't imply that Beyond Paradise. But if all the cast are out there, it'd be cheaper sending the 2 of them over there rather than bringing everybody back.
Probably. Yeah, you'd have thought so. Yeah, probably.
Especially if they're going to have Catherine there and bring her over from France to do 2 minutes. Yeah.
And the fact is, they wouldn't even need to send a crew or anything like that because there's a crew already out there. Just film this at the part when you get 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's still weird that nobody mentioned it.
Yeah, that's because
there are fans who go. There are super fans who go to Guadeloupe to see the sights of Death in Paradise.
It's the type of thing I would love to do, and I must admit, I would love for San Marie to be non-fiction because it looks a gorgeous place to live.
Yeah, but would you want to go there? You know, I mean, it would have the tourist attraction of St Mary Mead or Midsummer.
That's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Cabot Cove. Don't forget Cabot
Cove. Yeah.
Cabot Cove, Midsummer, St. Mary Mead, and St. Marie are the most dangerous places in the entire world.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is, yeah, but how many tourists go and how many people think me? If you see that, pick your city and tell me how many people die in that city.
Yeah, true. But...
Well, aren't there midsummer tours?
No, there is.
But
there's a lot of stuff like that.
Because where do they film Midsummer?
I don't know. That's the one thing I don't know.
This is probably why Jersey's reasonably safe, because there weren't that many murders. What a crime! There weren't that many murders in Jersey.
I mean, I know it can't be close to London because the guy who played Jones, one of the reasons he quit is because when he was going out there, he had to commute from London and it was awful.
Yeah.
And he said that's the reason he left.
The question is,
couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah, was the bad bit the commuting, was the bad bit having to go back to London every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he reckoned the place where all the murders happened was actually safer.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you had the choice going to there or staying in Glasgow or staying in Los Angeles or me, I know where I'm going. Even if I end up a victim, I know where I would like to be the victim, in a nice sunny place, which is rather than this, as they said in Chelmsford 123. This
apparently, according to the Radio Times and someone else pulled up, it's filmed in various places. It's a lot of it is filmed in Buckinghamshire and Oxfordshire.
Oh, okay.
They did. I saw something about Wallingford in there as well.
Yeah. See, do you know the thing is, I'm always surprised when people say, "Oh, I went to do the tour, but the bit when he drove round the corner, they're like 17 miles away," and I'm sitting there thinking, really? TV programs and movies aren't telling the truth.
You know, it's funny you say that because I don't know how much attention you ever paid to the U.S. version of Law and Order, because that was actually filmed in New York. So it's not, Vancouver or Toronto playing New York. It actually is New York.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they make up addresses. And, for example, one episode I'll never forget, they said, oh, yeah, such and such happened at a bodega on 80th Street and 3rd Avenue. Well, there is no bodega on 80th Street and 3rd Avenue. Or they'll get an address of 600 and something East 73rd Street. Well, there is no 6 something. That's the middle of the river.
That's the middle of Hudson River or something, yeah.
It's the middle of the
river, There was the movie set in Glasgow, Danny the Dog or Unleashed. It depends. It was released under both Jet Li, Morgan Freeman, and Bob Hoskins. It was set in Glasgow, and you see them the bit where they're in the Jag and they drive around the corner and park and they get out and go into the pub. The pub is Sloan's. You can see on the slate, see where Sloan's is. It's an old cobbled lane. It comes from Buchanan Street, which is a pedestrian walkway. And then there's this lane, it goes down and then goes down, and Sloan's is there. Takes you down to an archway, which has got a bollard so cars can't go down and stuff like that. So the fact that came round that corner, parked, and they get out, it implies that was a street, which it isn't. It's a lane. So that car would have had to reverse back out because it couldn't have gone out forward.
Well, I don't know if you remember the 1980s, the best Robin Hood series, Robin Hood Sherwood. But there's I remember the commentaries on the DVDs. That's one of the first set of DVDs I got. And there's one bit where one of the commentators said, apparently there's a scene in one of them where you get some evil nuns. And this is the 1980s, so nothing to do with baseball clubs or football clubs, whatever they are. But the literally they out to their Satan worshipping nuns, which makes sense with them, and they go down steps into their thing. And there was a lot of complaints because the steps that they go down to were Wells Cathedral, which apparently is very well known. It's quite a famous set of steps if you know these things. And there was a lot of complaints saying, how did they do this? They film this in Wells Cathedral. I said, no, they filmed them going down the stairs in Wells Cathedral. The actual dungeon, the actual not dungeon cellar set, that was completely different. But because of the cut, you don't realise it. So,
yeah.
The
big thing is, right, even New York or London or Glasgow or something, where the movie, you see them coming up, driving up, parking the car, getting out and going straight into the building. How anybody know how they can park anywhere in any city right outside the building they're wanting to go into?
Yeah.
Oh, I always love
usually a case of
parking spot in front of their own building.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 90% of the time you're driving down the road going, you see a parking space? You see a parking space? Right, we'll get that one over there and we'll just have to walk the half mile back. It's basically, even when I used to watch the Starsky and Hutch, whatever, you see them pulling up and I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, right, there was a space for them right there.
A few times I drove a car in New York City, my friends and I had a rule. You grab the first spot you see within a certain radius.
Yep.
And you just park there. And even if you see 15 spots between there and where you have to be, you do not move it because you will lose them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Been there.
Well, that's why this whole thing about Meghan and Harry's quote unquote car chase, it's ridiculous. Even Whoopi Goldberg had to admit that this was totally absurd.
Yeah, but even some of the video they showed about the police following them. You see them going down, the taxi goes right, and the police cars go left because they were the reason the lights were flashing is because they were trying to get past them because they had to go somewhere. But they were implying they had this escort with the police cars.
They are so full of garbage.
Yeah.
So full.
Even the fact is, did you know here that the court, it's the first time in X amount of years that a royal had to go appear in court, and he was so arrogant that he didn't even turn up. He was late in the first day. His court case, the judge reprimanded him because he just didn't show.
Well,
supposedly his kid's birthday. I mean, first of all, she's 2. She doesn't remember. She's not going to remember her second birthday.
Yeah, but did they not use that excuse for the coronation?
They used that. No, that was Archie's excuse. The excuse.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's for kids' birthday. It's for kids' birthday. Yeah, fair enough. You've got 2 kids, but isn't that convenient? Both of them happened in 2 times that A, you had to show up for something, or B, she didn't want. She wasn't invited to something. Oh, we couldn't go because it was a birthday. Couldn't go, but we could. But even at that, sorry. I could have actually my kid could have been born, and if I was called up in court, I think I would have been able to say, "Sorry, judge, the baby was just born, and I decided to go there." That's no problem. You'll see him in a week when you're out of jail.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So
if you don't show up for court, I mean, I don't know what it's like in the UK, obviously, but here, it was his court case. You could be in contempt of court.
Yes, but it's a civil case.
True, but there is such a thing as civil contempt.
Yes, it would still be contempt, but it basically got, in effect, what it does is basically.
Yeah, but be fair, he's probably used to contempt. Most people hold him and his wife, hold Meghan and her wife and his wife in contempt.
No, that's a very good point.
Yes.
I have very little but contempt for both of them.
Yeah.
And then the more I learn about them, the more contempt I have.
Yeah. It's just one of those things. It's just nuts.
They're just awful human beings. Wastes of protoplasm.
What's that? Let's see. What's this?
What's going on?
I'm just. I didn't know Ransom was filmed in New York.
It was, yeah. It was a good film. It's just that I was sitting there laughing as they're going full speed down Central Park, down Fifth Avenue to go someplace. It's actually around the corner.
Well, can you imagine the streets of San Francisco?
Mm-hmm.
You used to see the car go vroom,
Yeah.
because it was
Yeah.
basically
It was so hilly,
it was
yeah.
all the hills. You would see them do that, and you're sitting there thinking, it's even the thing where you would see Dukes of Hazzard. Remember, you would see them do the jump. You would see the car landing and bits it going woo, and then the next up, the car's full, no problem. Yet you saw both wings and the tires go what?
Yeah.
Did
When
you
it
guys
landed.
ever see the movie What's Up, Doc with Barbara Streisand and Ryan O'Neal?
Yes, it was a long time ago, but I recognise it.
Funny movie. And there is a car chase with a car and a bicycle and a dragon from a Chinese parade, and just it's hilarious. Very funny movie.
Well, and if you remember, was it Live and Let Die or was it one after? One of them's when
and then Bullet had a good car chase.
Yeah.
Bullet is one of the best car chases.
Oh yeah.
Do you hear what they were talking about doing? A
remake of it or something?
Yeah, no, not a remake of it.
Oh.
A new movie starring Steve McQueen. CGI.
What it would have to be.
A deep fake, but they're already talking about. I was watching something about the Cowboys, the John Wayne, and it was his son, and they were talking about that there's rumours, not talks, because his son didn't know about it, but somebody had suggested that they said that there's rumours that, and he says, well, nobody's approached me, that they're talking about doing a western with John Wayne, Burt Lancaster, and all these old classic western heroes, villains.
Great cast.
Who are no longer around, and deep faking the whole lot.
I can see why the writers are going on strike about AI. The actors are going on strike about it next as well. You don't need
it. That's meant to be the end of this month, is it not?
So mind you, nothing of value will be lost. Yeah. When I was saying it was one of the Bond movies, and I'm not sure if it was Live and Let Die or the one where we went back down there and had the sheriff in again, but where they have a car chase, and the car literally does a barrel roll over a bridge, and that was actually done in camera.
Yeah. The remember the old boy. Yeah. The old sheriff was sitting watching him. No, he's in the car with him, remember? You're not. Hold on tight. Yeah, I remember that one. The French Connection, I heard the rumour about, I heard the story about the French Connection, that they were told they weren't allowed to do the car chase, but they did it anyway. So they basically had two stunt drivers doing the car chase, and it wasn't, the roads weren't cleared for them.
I think apparently that they've, I think I might have worked out what it is that they supposedly have blipped in that. It says apparently it's a racial slur, and apparently it's when they referred to the bad guy as a frog. I suspect it's when the bad guy's the frog, because he's French.
Yeah, the French Connection, I heard that they were told they weren't allowed to do the car chase because they weren't stopping the roads and all that, and they did it anyway. So they had the cameras filming because they knew the route. And they did it even without. So all those cars you see aren't stunt cars. It's just the two of them and stunt cars driving.
Looking for stud drivers, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But no, basically, yeah. There's been some great. I think Bullet is one of my favourites.
I loved that movie. I didn't think I would, but I did.
Yeah. It's the same as Steve McQueen when he did the one in The Great Escape with a motorbike.
Yeah, he did that himself, didn't he?
He did his own stunt because he was a biker.
Yeah.
But that was another great chase, even on the bikes.
I mean, I know The Great Escape was not very true to life because there were no Americans involved, but it's still a good movie.
Oh, it is. It's a fun movie. Yeah, I mean, But
Well,
it is a fun
Lots
movie.
of-
It's a fun, entertaining movie. Not
Yeah,
fun.
I was
as in
gonna say,
what-
Oh,
yeah.
no, it's an
Not the
entertaining
they all
movie.
got shot at the end. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Yeah, it is.
And but even at
Very
that,
gripping.
even that bit there about like how they all got shot, the trucks all pulled up, they all got out for a smoke, and then all the trucks reversed down. And that's not how it happened anyway.
No, it wouldn't have been.
No, because Hitler wanted every one of them to be shot who got caught, and they were told we can't because if you do that, then they could do it to ours. So he basically picked a number, and he says he wanted 50.
Wow.
So somebody was going, he went down and picked the names, and then the ones that were caught, there was a case of, right, you come and meet, and they let maybe the two of them were getting taken back, and they were stopped for a smoke, and as they were stopped for a smoke, the two Germans just went out, and that was it. They were shot while trying to escape right across the board. So that bit, even with the machine gunning them all down in the field, it's not how it happened. But it for entertainment purposes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's entertaining, and also it is
Warriors come out
accurate.
to play.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
The Warriors. I love the Warriors as well.
I think the Dirty Harry. I think one of the Dirty Harry movie that had Hutch in it was one of the bad guys. When it was the motorbike cops, they had some great bike chases and crashes in that as well, if I remember right.
Yes, they did,
Didn't they?
But yeah, I walked through Central Park when it was snowing. It was great.
Oh, Central Park's magnificent in the snow.
Well, it started snowing as we walked through. By the time we got to the other end, it was about a foot of snow.
Wow, what year was that?
Must have been about 5-6 years ago.
Oh, that recently. Okay, then I wasn't there.
Yeah, let's see.
I left there 15 years
Before
ago.
or after we get married? I think it was after we got married.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
haven't been there
about
15 years. I
5-6
was curious.
because we went there and it was the beginning of December,
Okay.
and it was just basically we went out for a walk and it wasn't snowing. As soon as we went to Central, get into Central Park, we could see the snow coming on. By the
That's
time we got
beautiful.
out, the snow was
That's
deep,
beautiful.
and it was
Wow.
great. So it was. It was such a sight to see.
Yeah, and then you get out of Central Park onto the street where it's just disgusting.
Actually,
Was-
no, because by the time we got back down, the snow was still falling. But the
Mm.
next morning, we were expecting to go down and it would be disgusting like any street anywhere.
Right.
But nope.
Huh.
Snow was all piled up into corners. They had cleared it.
That's
Wow.
impressive.
It was very
Considering that,
impressive. Considering
was-
we,
de Blasio was
if we
mayor.
get a bit of snow here, like a couple of centimetres, everything, you could be walking down and there's slush everywhere. Yeah, they had a couple of feet of snow, and it was just all piled into the corners of the pavements. And
That's impressive given that Bill de Blasio was mayor.
yeah, it was so well done. It was amazing. It's the same
That's
idea when we were in Dubai. Dubai has got, because it's in the middle of a desert, not a bit of sand, because they've got a load of people keeping the sand at bay. So there's a lot of street sweepers and everything.
Huh.
And you couldn't tell that this place is the middle of a desert because accordingly, if they did even if the people didn't work for a day or two, there would be sand everywhere and it would be coating everything. Yet you couldn't tell. Then you didn't even see them out in the streets at night. They would come out and it would clearing everything away, making sure it's all. It was amazing, but New York impressed me with that. You came down in the morning expecting to sludge through the snow, and it's all clear. All the roads, all the pavements cleared, all the roads cleared.
It was good.
It was amazing.
Very good. Yeah.
That's really impressive.
Was talking of,
Because, you know,
talking of Central Park, was Friends filmed in New York?
what was Friends?
Was Friends
I
filmed in New York?
Don't know. I never watched
Set
Friends.
there. I watched it. I don't know.
It's meant to have been, but I don't know where it was filmed.
Because
Majority of the time, it was sets anyway.
All right, let's check.
well, yeah,
this.
this is very true. This is
Apparently,
true.
Because
apparently it
remember
was
the cafe
filmed
was
in
called Central.
California.
Yeah, I was at Central Park. That's why I'm wondering because I was
It was
obviously
filmed
about
in
Central
California,
Park.
but some some
right.
shots were filmed in New York.
Yeah.
because it was
Same
meant to be
with-
set in New York.
Yeah.
Right, but same with Seinfeld. It was filmed in California, but it takes place in New York, and they do show some outside places that are in New York. But Law and Order is filmed in New York. I can tell you that with certainty because I've seen episodes being filmed.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's been a few things filmed in Glasgow. Most of the time, it's usually Scottish stuff, like
Right.
Still Game and Rapsy Nesbitt and stuff like that. But yeah, there's been a few movies as well. Even things like Outlander has been filmed around about Glasgow. But then again, you've had The Batman was filmed in Glasgow. The Indiana Jones part of it, the bit with the horse. Yeah, because the reason a lot of places, like World War Z, Glasgow as well, because it's meant to be in Boston or stuff like that. But Charles Rennie Mackintosh did a lot of the designing of a lot of the buildings.
So it looks similar, yeah.
It looks similar enough.
Well,
because World War Z, you see the bit when you see the bit when they're in they're driving along, and then the cops going, stop, get in the car, and then this truck just goes boom, wipes them out. And then you see they get out of the car and they run down and they get into the Winnebago, and they fill it, and it goes up, and you see the massive zombies coming into the square. That's George Square in Glasgow. So it is.
Okay.
So
I think Rings of Diversity is supposed to be being filmed somewhere near Bray, I think. Somewhere out that way. Not a million miles from yours truly, I think.
The Fountain and Friends is real. There you go.
Oh, that's isn't that, oh God, what's the name of it? It's in Central Park. Yes, that's a real fountain.
No, Peter, that is absolutely fantastic. That sinking feeling, I loved that. I went and hunted for that. It took me ages to find it. The sinking feeling was superb. Did I ever tell you about that movie, The Sinking Feeling? Bill Forsyth. It's about a load of guys, unemployed, no hope, in Glasgow, and they decide to rob this place of the new thing, kitchen sinks, stainless steel kitchen sinks, because you can get about 50 quid for each one and stuff like that. So they make a heist. Two of them dress up as women to entice the guards away while the rest of them rob the place. Sinking Feeling is absolutely hilarious. It is very dated, but it's fun.
So you know, if they remade that today, of course, that'd be something that those two characters are trans, obviously.
Yeah, but it's even at that when the two of them are thinking, because one of the guys, his girlfriend gets annoyed with him because he's more interested in dresses than she is. Because he's getting so into it and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, but it was so well done. It was so much fun. John Gordon Sinclair was in it. Yeah,
well,
I mean,
things used to be fun. You used to be allowed to have fun when you're making things.
Yeah, but it was just one of those, the city bakeries. So they basically they use a city bakeries van because one of the guys works for someone. So what they did was they gave him a cup or something, and he drank that, and that was him. He'd been practicing all these mice and stuff like that to see if he can get the right dosage to knock him out. But it knocked him out. The guy didn't move, and at the end of it, you see him in his bed, still. What they think, and there's I think it's a bit at the end. It basically says he woke up and 30 years later never aged. They're still trying to work out what caused it. It was just basically, but they've got the city bakeries van full of sinks, and as they pull up and they go into a shop, another van pulls up behind them, and the guy gets out. And they jump in the car and drive away, but they go away. So when they go to sell the sinks, they open them and it's full of cakes. So they think they've won the lottery. Whoa, cakes! Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah. I must admit, Sinking Feeling's a fun one. Gregory's Girl, yes. I've got 2 copies of Gregory's Girl somewhere in here. That was filmed up in Cumbernauld, just less than an hour's drive. My wife was born just along the road from where it was filmed.
Wow.
But yeah. Because even things like John Gordon Sinclair and stuff like that, we used to see them in Glasgow when they were basically filming things like the TV shows they were in. So we would see that. Rabsy Nesbitt and stuff like that. Peter Capaldi used to drink the same pub as me. Just used to I used to see him because I knew he was on TV, but it was just a case of a nod. That was it. Never realised he was a big Doctor Who fan. I never got out of Captain. But it's used to see all these guys in part and parcel. Same as David Tennant. One of his first ones was as Davina in Rabsy Nesbitt, the barmaid. And he was really good in that as well. James, he had the hots for Davina.
So David Tennant is from near Glasgow, Paisley, right?
Paisley, yes.
And
yes,
Peter
Paisley's in the outskirts.
And Peter Capaldi is from Glasgow. Then
Yes.
where is Sylvester from?
I think Sylvester's from Paisley as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm sure he's from Paisley. He starred in... he was in one episode of Rabsy Nesbitt as well, played Rab's brother. So 2 doctors have appeared in Rabsy Nesbitt.
Let us look him up. Sylvester McCoy.
I'm sure he's Paisley as well. Whereabouts in Glasgow was Peter from? Does it say?
He was born in Dunoon.
Dunoon. Aye, but he stayed in Glasgow.
Okay.
Right. Dunoon's just a wee village to the north.
Oh, okay. And I didn't realize he was a year younger than Colin Baker.
Wow. He was born in the noon, so neither the morning nor the afternoon.
Oh, God.
No, but it was Peter. Sylvester was Dunoon, wasn't he?
Right. Sylvester says Dunoon.
Yeah.
Peter was born in Glasgow.
Does it say where in Glasgow? Does it give
just
an area?
says Glasgow. This is Wikipedia. It just says Glasgow.
Aye. So yeah, because Glasgow's a big area. It's just different areas. You know what I mean? I stayed out in I was born in Easterhouse. Stayed in Postal Park.
Oh, his parents ran an ice cream business in the Springburn district.
Springburn. That's where I stayed as well. I stayed in Springburn.
Oh, this is interesting. They were neighbors and acquaintances of the family of Armando Iannucci, the creator of Thick of It, even though the 2 men did not know each other as children.
Well, there you go. Probably actually once they got to know each other and it was a case of, yeah.
I know.
But, yeah, I mean, it's because I've stayed in a lot of different areas. I mean, Easterhouse was nowadays it's meant to be one of the rough areas.
That's
I was born in Easterhouse. Postal Park, where even the police dogs go about into us.
According to IMDb, Capaldi's paternal grandfather was Italian.
Right. Well, that's where he gets the name Capaldi from. Capaldi's not a Scottish name.
It's as Scottish as a lot of us.
Right.
Said one whose paternal grandfather was Italian.
That's what I'm saying.
Louis Capaldi is his cousin. I did not know that. I thought it was interesting that they have the same last name and they're both from Scotland, but apparently it's because
no. But I'll give you the examples. My family name. When I was younger, I could open the phone book and there would be 7 of them, and it would be my dad's brothers and my grandfather. That was it. It was all that was the one name. However, accordingly, there's 7 families with the same name in the Glasgow area.
Wow.
There's ones that run chip shops in East Kilbride. There's ones that run chip shops, ice cream van in Glasgow. There's ones that run chip shops in Ayr or Irvine. There's one that used to stay around the corner, had the same name as my brother, and my brother kept getting a doing because, you're Tony. Wrong one. He stays in the corner. So my dad and my brother would constantly get a beating because this other one was a Torag. So he was that TJ had to basically, we had a guy around the corner, no relation whatsoever, same name. And it's just one of those things. My surname is quite well known in Glasgow
Okay.
area, and it has nothing to do with me or part of my family. Part of my family, certain areas, yes, but my surname is actually quite well known. It's actually that well known that in Local Hero, was it Local Hero? The one
Where
out
is
in
that filmed?
it's
Or
a
where does
school.
that take place?
That's in Glasgow.
Oh, it is. Okay.
It basically there's one about there's a Belfast South one. It was about I think it was a school teacher, and he taught in a Catholic school. And then when they're calling out all the kids' names, my name's mentioned. Well, not my name, but my surname is mentioned because
Okay.
it's quite common.
So you,
There was a thing called the Fan of the Tan. It was about someone who owned a tanning salon, and their rivals, same name, because
So
it
you,
was in my area in Glasgow. My surname, Italian surname, is quite well known, so there's a lot of them around.
so what you tend to do is you now giving yourself a double-barreled surname. So you introduce yourself as Peter, no relation.
Yeah, the ice cream wars had nothing to do with that. But yes, there's a big Italian community in Scotland, but I always said I just miss being the doctor. My name's Peter, surname's Italian, born in Glasgow, and I missed it by that much.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
And
such
being
a
an
shame.
actor.
Well, the fact that that's why I say I missed it by that much. Because I can't act. Although with some of the whoppers I cornly tell I'm a great actors because
I was going to say I'm not sure that's necessarily failing to appearing in TV shows these days. Not being
nowadays,
able to act.
but at one point it was a requirement. So, do you know what we'll do? Right, we'll do this.
Pick of the week.
Because there's a couple of things I want. So, anybody get anything?
Nah.
Right, I'll bounce me to the front. There I'm there. Hello. Right. I'll just bring out a couple of my discs. I nearly flew them all over the place the way I picked them up. They're slidey. Ow.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry. Testing. Sorry, I couldn't resist that.
Oi, that's my job. I resemble that.
Parrot face Davis. Anyway, I picked up a couple of DVDs. I picked up about a lot more than this. But I'm split it into two, so I can cover for next week. Blue Streak. This one, I thought it was okay when I first saw it. I thought I'd give it another go. Martin Lawrence. It's just one of those things. The very first time I saw it, all I kept thinking was Silver Streak, and I kept getting mixed up. And I'm sitting there thinking, I thought it was Richard Pryor, but it was Martin Lawrence. But I thought he'd done a remake, and I realised no, I was thinking of Silver Streak. But
Yeah,
I picked up a wee war one, War in the Air, 1940, 1945. That should be fun. The Fight for the Sky, Target for Today, and Target for Tonight. It's just all about the different air wars. So I do like my documentaries. Another one I picked up was Kevin and Perry Go Large. I'm not a big fan of Harry Enfield, but I thought his Kevin character was great, and Kathy Burke is Perry is she's superb as Perry, so she is. So I'm looking forward to that one. Picked up one for my wife. In the Name of Love, Diana, Princess of Wales, The Life and Death of. So I picked that one up at the charity shop as well. So that's a documentary, so that should be fun as well. And the last one I've never even heard of. An adventure as big as the universe. Earth to Echo. E.T. for the new generation. I've never even heard of this one.
No, neither have I.
So when I picked it, as I said, I got 10 for £1. So I just went through and So that I'm going to have a watch sometime next week after I finish the Father Brown. And I picked up a couple of books. And as you can imagine, there are books on Roman Scotland.
Nice.
Because obviously I'm on my kick about the history stuff. And I picked up the Illustrated History of Scotland. So I'm just picking up bits and pieces. So I've got a couple of other books, but they were mainly coins. I picked up a couple of Ordnance Survey maps and bits and pieces like that. So that is the boring part. I picked up 3 other things, and this is to complete my collection. As you remember last week, I picked up the Green Lantern. Well, I decided to pick up Aquaman. It's not my favourite, and I think it doesn't look that great, but I picked up Aquaman. And because I picked up Aquaman, I picked up Cyborg. So those were the 2 I didn't really care about, Cyborg or Aquaman, because I don't really like the figures. But the one I was looking for...
Are these from the film?
No.
Oh, I was like, because I don't remember.
That was the one I had been looking for.
Ah, wow.
The Batman one. Because I've got, as you can see
Love
there,
my Batman.
you could barely see the Flash, Superman, and next to that I've got Wonder Woman, and then I've done the Green Lantern at the other side. So I've got Flash, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern, and these are the other 3 to complete the 7. So this was the one I wanted, but these were going nice and cheap, so I picked them up as well, just to complete my collection, even though they're no great. I think the Cyborg looks better, so it does, but I think that just looks awful, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas the Wonder Woman, Superman, and Green Lantern Flash, nice, colourful, bright, look the part. Those 2 don't. This one, obviously not bright, but it's Batman.
It's
And
Batman.
I think it looks quite good. So I thought I would pick that one. That's the one I'd been looking for. And when I saw that one and the other 2, I've got other stuff sitting there. I actually picked up something else that when I got home, I thought, I've already got them. Oops. I picked up a couple of bobbleheads, and I didn't realise I had the full set. And I thought I'd only had 2, but I picked up another 2, so they're going to go into the bag. So if any the nephews come up and go round my room, I can see, here, take that and go away and get it. Don't touch. So I've got toys for them. So and I've got a couple of things for next week. And the next week pick of the week, I think it's one of the fun ones. And yes, it is a Funko, so it's not the greatest ones, but it's one of the funnest ones. Because remember, I've picked up the shark, the orca, which is there somewhere. There, you can just see the mast of it there. That's the orca with the jaws coming out. I've also I picked up that one up there. Where is it? The He-Man, the Skeletor. I remember I picked up the Skeletor and I showed it last week or the week before. Well, this one's another set like that, and I could not resist it. But I'll show you that next week. I've got 2 figures for next week, and that's what I'm finishing on. I've got a load of more DVDs, but I'm quite happy with the books. I've already given this one a go, so this one's actually quite interesting. It doesn't cover the area I'm looking at, but it does give me some things, some ideas of what's happened, because I've been doing some research around, and remember I says to one of my fields, there's a Roman road to the south of it. Well, I actually went through the maps again and went through every single... The map has got pinpoints of archaeological significance. So some of them, you click on it and it says farmhouse or mill or something. Well, there was a couple that says trench dug for possible Roman road, so I catalogued 3 of them, and as I was going through them all, it was one click, Roman coin found, click, Roman pottery found. So even to the north and south of where the road's expected to go, there's been Roman things found.
It's
So
interesting because I suppose it depends how far in Scotland you are, because the Romans never got further than the Antonine War, I think, did they?
I'm not as far up as the
Or at least-
Antonine.
oh,
They
right,
did.
so-
They actually went into Mons Grampus. They went up the coast, going towards Aberdeen way.
But then I suppose there may be stuff got up there by trade. I mean, just because I suspect
But no, the
probably trade
Antonine.
up
They basically built the border, the Hadrian's Wall,
there. Yeah.
and then they moved up to the Antonine Wall. But the Antonine Wall was built with ramparts and basically dirt and wood, and it only lasted about 20 years before they fell back, whereas the Hadrian's Wall was done by stone. But they did get a bit further up than where I am. They went up, which is north of Glasgow. I'm south of Glasgow, so there is a road that's meant to run across from roughly the Edinburgh way, coming down towards Erin, Irvine. So there's Roman roads they know of, and there's Roman roads they've got part of, and they think this is the route it's taking. And what I've done is gone through where they think it took it, and I've literally went along that route and then checked any of the archaeological references to see what the reference. And most of them are all about the mills and the Ayrshire. There's Neolithics, there's prehistoric, there's even Second World War camps and stuff like that. It's all mentioned here, Barry's balloons, stuff like that. But there's also ones where coin found, Roman coin, medieval axe head, stuff like that. So I catalogued all that as well. So I'm actually getting right into it. So, which I think is making me less geeky now, because my geekiness is actually petering off, because, as I said, it was a choice last week to go to the farm show or the Comic-Con, and I decided to go to the farm show so I could talk to all the farmers about the area and stuff like that, and see if I could get some permissions instead of going to the Comic-Con and buying toys. Is that a bad sign, or is that not a bad sign?
Well, it's indicative of the state of geekdom today.
I think that's what it is. It's because the more I hear about things, the more I'm sitting there going, oh, really? I wish basically season 2 of Wheel of Time
The only
is coming
thing.
out.
Oh God, really?
Also, part of it is that. Oh, sorry.
Go on, Kelly.
No, I was just going to say part of it also is because the detecting is new. It's something new. It's something different.
Yeah.
Something fresh for you.
Well, there is that,
Shiny,
but
new.
I've always, as you can see with my DVD collection, there's a lot of historical stuff.
Mhm.
It's military history and stuff like that, but I also got stuff in ancient Egypt. So I've always been interested in a lot of the historical stuff, time team favourite stuff, because they do all the history. So I've already been interested in the history. This is just an aspect of allowing me to get into it, and
Makes
also
sense.
get a bit healthy.
Makes sense.
So, because, am I ever going to find anything except maybe a horseshoe, which I was told it was an 1800 Shire horse. So
Maybe,
I'm happy with that. Found a couple of 100-year-old horseshoe. Although it's just a horseshoe.
Well,
But it's one of those things. It's not. Normally, I've got one of those things like, if you look over there, that shelf there, you can't really see it because, hold on, I'll turn that a wee bit. Right, you can see the shelf there, right? You see all those folders. That's all Magic the Gathering. So I took my Magic the Gathering sidetracked me from everything else for about 2 years, but it didn't stop me liking this and collecting all this, because I did that as well as all this. And there's nothing that's ever actually stopped me still putting a DVD on while I'm doing other stuff and collecting this and cataloguing that, because I've been interested in multiple things. Hence the reason why there's no just one thing in here. So I've always had multiple interests and I could juggle them all. Like, as I said, the Magic the Gathering stuff's all there. That whole shelving unit's all Magic the Gathering.
So are you going to be buying the new Magic the Gathering Lord of the Rings set then?
I stopped Magic the Gathering about 2 years ago.
I never actually got. I've actually got a starter set somewhere. And I mean, a starter set. It's got like 2 very small packs of the rules. I don't think I've ever played it, and never got into it. But
the starter sets you've got are for a 60 deck, and that's just basically what's called modern.
So,
right? I like playing Commander. Commander's 100 cards, and you play it in groups of 4 or 6. Usually we stick to 4, but it is fun. It can be fun. You don't need the new cards and stuff like that. But I used to buy the new cards. Every time a new set came out, I would buy a box, which is about £120, and maybe a booster bundle. Whoa. So I would spend about £150. So that was about 4 times a year. Then they started putting them out every couple of weeks, and I just went, nope, I'm stopping. I'm not spending it. Then they started changing stuff, and I thought, no, because they were talking about getting rid of they've got 5 colours. There's red, green, blue, white, and black. Then you've got the colourless ones as well. But they're the 5 main colours, all right? And then what they decided was that some of the white cards, they've decided to take them out because you had knights and some of the characters had maybe a red cross on their tunic, and they decided that they were racist. So I thought,
what?
Yeah, they started going down that route.
And then me why a Crusaders cross is racist.
You don't. The problem is there's never.
Sorry, I'm asking him to explain something stupid of me.
Yeah, exactly. So you're talking about people who actually just see something, and then they would go, "Oh, yeah, we need to do this, we need to do that," and you're sitting there thinking, "Why?" Because some of the ones they're actually talking about removing or saying that there's not enough of, people used to collect them because they were such good cards, but they were rare.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they started putting more in to make it better and more balanced, and people just went, really? My card here was worth over £100 because it was rare. You've just actually flooded it. Now this is worth less than a tenner.
Yeah.
And you're expecting me to be happy and stuff like that. So I just basically stopped. I've got another bundle coming to me. My brother-in-law was at a card boot sale. Somebody had sold their whole collection and he picked them all up. So I've got another few hundred cards coming. I've got 13,000 cards in my collection at the moment. And I reckon I've got another couple of thousand coming. So I need to catalog those.
I think the best thing we can do, we can solve a lot of this problem with Wizards of the Coast and Disney, is flood them with sleeping gas and send them back to sleep so they don't awake anymore.
Yeah.
Because as soon as they woke up, they started ruining everything.
But that's the thing, it's basically, and a sticker in my car's got a D&D sticker. I'm tempted to get my hot gun and just pick it off. Don't want D&D on my car anymore because I stopped playing that as well. That's why we went out for something different and we got Castles and Crusades.
Yeah. No, I don't. I mean, I used to, the thing is, I think there's a lot of stuff is creeping in, and then they wonder why their stuff's not selling. It's not selling because they don't actually understand what they've got.
Yeah, the biggest problem with Wizards of the Coast, especially under the Hasbro under market for Magic the Gathering, is there was 2 years people couldn't go out and play. So what they did was they tried to compensate with it by putting stuff out that people could collect and organise their decks. So they flooded the market with too much. They basically just flooded the market with stuff. People couldn't go out and play, and they were expecting people to actually, instead of buying 4 sets a year, buy 8 sets a year. Really?
Well,
so that's why
the whole thing is that I think it's. I mean, I haven't played. I never played Magic the Gathering. I played D&D a long while ago, but I think I was playing third edition, 3.5, 3.5. I think was the last one I played, AD&D. But
Yeah.
you can see it when they come out and say, we're not monetizing it enough. You do not understand your market.
Yeah, because see, parts of it I could understand certain things, right? Because when you were playing, I would say 80% of the cost was the DM paying.
I can.
Whereas we would buy dice, and as you saw the amount of dice I've got boxes upon boxes of dice. But I would buy dice, I would buy a figure, I would maybe buy a couple other figures to help. But majority, so they were looking at it thinking, well, we've got about 20% of the customer base are the ones that do all the buying. So I could understand the fact that they were trying to get it across the board.
I can understand that. I mean, everybody really needs. I mean, the only thing that you actually need as a player is a player's guide.
Yeah.
If you are playing a magic user of some sort, you may well want if you know the magic tomes or whatever. Some of the class specific, thieves this or whatever, they're quite useful to have, but you don't need them. And the only one that needs anything else is the GM needs the monster manual, needs a player's guide and needs a GM manual. But what they don't seem to get is that people do these things, say, okay, fine. Well, in that case, well, I've got the basic rules. I don't need your world. I'm going to go and make my own world. And that's the whole point of it. I mean, this is what gets me when they sort of start saying things like, oh, such and such is problematic, such and such is okay, fine. But if you want to play D&D and you don't like such and such of it, play it your way. Don't make everybody else play it your way, which they're not going to like because they're not as insane as you.
Yeah. But it is. And I was just looking at Peter, he was actually saying about a lot of good. I think these are not cornerstones, but there's a load of. I've got a load of the Doctor Who cards, as you can see. Not that I'm a collector of cards at any way, because as I said, that whole shelving unit is Magic the Gathering.
They suddenly come out, didn't they? I don't know. Did Magic start the trend for collectible or popularized collectible card ones?
I think they did. It basically became very popular because, like, even the 2000 AD ones, as you can see, I've got a load of them, and I've got the Babylon 5 ones as well. So that's the other two sets I've got is the Babylon 5 cards as well as the 2000 AD cards.
Because these we didn't. I mean, you used to get. I mean, I remember.
And remember we were talking about someone last week.
Yep.
Mac one.
Yep.
So, but yeah,
they were. I mean, I don't know. I think they started as baseball cards and bubblegum cards in the States, Julie.
They did. Basically, they weren't the card games like that. Yeah. Because you used to get
collectible cards.
Collectibles.
Yeah.
Because you get collectible cards, the same idea as you would get the football ones here.
Yeah, we get. We've got them for American football, baseball, hockey. They might have them for you guys football. I don't know because I don't.
Yeah.
When I was
we had the Pirelli ones, which were the football ones. But remember,
baseball cards were the big thing.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That basically, there's ones like that which are collectible ones. They're actually designed as a game because, as you can see, see this dodgy hand of mine? It's terrible.
Well, we used to play games with them, but it was just like you'd put them in a pile, and I don't remember the rules or anything like that.
Yeah,
but flip the cards.
I mean that's the one.
Win the stack.
See, these
sort of top trumps, isn't it?
well, that's what I was going to say, because look at the brand. I don't know if you can see it. Tops.
Tops, yeah.
So
Yeah, they're
Tops.
a known
Trump.
brand.
Yeah. So, but Top Trump, we used to get a load of them here because I used to collect Top Trump when I was a kid. So probably about in the early 70s. I'm sure Magic started. It's about 40 odd years now. So
I'm sure I've got some somewhere. I've got some. I think I got some 2000 AD top trumps, and I've got some Warhammer 40k top trumps as well. Where you got
I got a Warhammer figure. There was about 4 Warhammer figures. One of them was a Space Marine unpainted, but it had a skull, so it was didn't like it because I wanted the one with the full helmet. There was a painted one, but it was an Inquisitor, so it didn't have the full Space Marine outfit. It was almost very very. Then they had a Gene Stealer. Wasn't bothered with that one. They had a couple of orcs, big boys, and one of them was unpainted. 2 of them were painted different colours, and I thought, if they only had a Space Marine with the helmet, even if it was unpainted, I would have snapped it up. But they didn't. Unfortunately,
I've been thinking. I've got so much lens, so much plastic in the spare bedroom that I've never got around to painting. And I'm never going to get
about your women like that.
I said spare bedroom. The library. There, I'm thinking I'm thinking what can maybe sort of get rid of them somewhere. Find something that might be useful for them. But I've got. I mean, you're talking stuff that's 10 years old plus, so it's I mean, you're talking the old plastic Predators and this sort of thing, and you're talking like old Eldar and Skaven and things like that.
Yeah, see, that's basically, I prefer the old stuff. See, when they changed Warhammer Fantasy to Sigma, I dropped it like a brick. Not interested. I liked the rules they had for the Warhammer Fantasy Battle. I had a big Bretonian army, and then they changed the rules even for the knights, and I thought, nah, I'm stopped playing that. I had 10,000 point army easily, so I had 250 knights.
I didn't play that one, but I just collected figures. So I like the figures and the models.
Well, see, I liked them as well because I had I used to paint them as well. So I used to basically just spend time just actually getting them all together, make sure the knights and all that were all painted, and I had all the squires in the livery. I had the rifleman, the bowman in the livery, and the spearman in the livery, all the same, and all my knights were all different liveried and stuff like that. I used to do all that, so I would actually have charts, so I didn't actually have 2 knights with the same colours.
Wow, nice.
So I used to actually had to print off, and then I would colour them in and go, right, that one thing, and I would keep it, and then once I'd painted it, that would go away. So when I was doing another one, right, I've not got that one. Instead of had digging out all my figures, because as I said, I had hundreds of them.
I'm just
however,
look at most of the stuff
when they changed it, you couldn't actually. You had to change it so you no longer had the lance formation. They started putting it back into rows because it was easier for calculation. Nah, I like the lance formation. The lance formation looked cool on the field.
Well,
but
I'm looking at most of mine, but that's coming at the moment. But I mean, I've got. I mean, 7 of my pieces there are Space Hulk or Space Crusade figures.
Space Hulk. I used to have Space Hulk, and I had
the Terminators where the bolt got over the clip over bit that turned into a flamer. I've got some epic stuff there.
I used to have some epic as well, but I didn't play epic too many times.
No, I didn't. But I mean, it seems like I've got epic knights, so obviously because they're epic and it's a knight, it's about the same size as a 28 mil. I've got the old. I loved the old Space Wombles, of course, with the Mark 6 helmets, the Raven helmets. A lot of those. Back when you used to get them, and you get a set, and you get arms and hands and all sorts of things. I've even got.
Morning, great.
Hey, hey, morning.
Right,
I've
but
even,
see, I mean, I used to have.
I've even got a set of figures which I'm pretty certain they're not Space Marines. They're kind of Imperial Guard as far as I'm concerned. I've got a couple of categories. I'm pretty certain that most of those are actually supposed to be aliens in Colonial Marines because
Well,
you used to get so many figures
yeah,
of
but
that
see,
sort of genre. Yeah.
I used to play 40k, Necromunda, Warhammer Fantasy.
I've got floating spore
Um,
mines.
um, oh,
Did
I can't
did
even
you ever
remember.
play you remember the Space Crusade when you got the expansion pack, the Dreadnoughts expansion pack?
Yeah, I
I got a
used to
couple of those
be.
made up with various bits and pieces.
Yeah, because I used to play Epic as well, but I also used to play Battlefield Gothic. So I had all the spaceships as well when they did that, which was fun because we would do the Battlefield Gothic, and then depending on how it ended, then we would have a planet invasion, so or a ship invasion. So
Oh
we would
wow,
have,
cool.
so basically you could go from playing Battlefield Gothic into doing a campaign for 40k.
Or Space Crusade in the middle with this, Oh
Yeah,
boy,
so it
that's
was that type of thing. So, and I had Imperial Guard and Chaos. I didn't really like the Eldar and stuff like that. I did have a few because my kids liked them, but I had Space Marines. I had Imperial Guard. I had the Imperial Guard dressed in the red and the pith helmets, and I had a load of the tanks. I'd converted them all.
I wonder how
I
many
had
people. I wonder how many people had those and did and actually did a 40k version of Zulu.
well, basically,
Thousands of them.
yeah, and that's exactly what we used to do because that's I had them. So yeah, I would actually take on 2 or 3 armies of the Tyranids because we wanted surrounded because I had like a 4,000 point unit with. I used to actually even I had a howitzer, and what I did was I got tubing from the B&Q and had 2 different types of pipe, so it actually made it look like a long cannon. Basically, I used to do the conversions and all the time, but even in fantasy, I had Bretonians, which I had almost a 10,000 point army. I had orcs, I had Skaven, I had chaos, I had dwarves, and I had elves. But they were all just enough to make 2,000 point army, except the orc and goblin army, which could do about 7 or 8,000. But my biggest passion was Bretonians. But see, when they started to change the rules, I just went, no more. That was it. Enough.
My favourites were and said are the Skaven. And I love the figures. And I've even got some of my favourite figures are actually Skaven Blood Bowl figures. And I never played Blood Bowl.
Oh, I've got Blood Bowl. I've actually got a box. Blood Bowl.
One of them
I have still got them.
I mean, they're like that I saw somewhere.
It was Games Workshop, Peter. It was.
Yeah, it's Games Workshop, but you could also get Games Workshop. I mean, I had a Games Workshop. I had an Orcs Nest near me, and there was.
I had the 2000 AD Judge Dredd Block Mania, which was Game Workshop as well.
Yeah,
and I also had there was a role play game, Judges. So you had the gun, and you had to mark out on the gun because you had the top and bottom. So you had to actually mark what bullets you had on what one. So you couldn't just go incendiary grenade, because you had 4 sets of bullets, and that was it. You had to actually put them up there. And if you had high X, incendiary, heat seeking, and then general. And if you used all your general, then you suddenly had to switch to. So if you were trying to take somebody prisoner, and you've got a heat seeker, and you've not got a general bullet anymore, you basically you could not, because you would incinerate them. So you had to actually work out what bullets you had to put in your gun and carrying them off and stuff like that. That was fun.
Games
Workshop used to do. They used to do the figures.
I think they now call themselves Warhammer.
They are.
The shops are now called Warhammer. But they're still going.
I think they went downhill. Do you know when I think they started going downhill? When they brought in Lord of the Rings.
I remember Games Workshop. They used to be, and you obviously do as well. Way back when they first started, it was exactly that. It was the game stuff. They had their own stuff started coming in. They had Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. They had Warhammer Rogue Trader, 40k Rogue Trader, and they had a lot. They would get tabletop war gaming and a lot of role playing stuff. And you'd even get White Dwarf, their magazine.
Yeah, it's still the White Dwarf's still out, but it's not as good as it used to be.
But you'd even get. I've got copies of, I think up to about 100 before they became purely Citadel miniatures. Where they had you'd have a scenario that you'd have a role playing scenario, and they do the scenario and they do it stats and all the rest of it, and they do it for Dungeons and Dragons. They do the same story, but for RuneQuest. They do travel. They do all this. They had comics. They had a Traveller's comic strip. They had Flood the it's Flood the Barbarian, because Flood is the game from
Discworld.
Discworld. It was Flood the Barbarian, and I remember one thing I remember they did was really great. They did stupid things like they converted these into games, into role playing. Like, for example, Flood the Barbarian, Stanley Cohen the Barbarian, big muscle, no brain, right? All he wore was a loincloth and a hat, helmet. And I remember one thing they did where they'd actually done. They did the characters, so they did the White Dwarf, which was the eponymous white dwarf figure, Warhammer Fantasy type dwarf figure, was on the magazine. That's what the magazine's number. But they did these characters, and they did them as Dungeons and Dragons characters. And but one of them they did Flood, and they had him with a magic plus 25 AC plus 25 loincloth brackets. How else do you explain that he never gets injured and all he ever wears is a loincloth? Close brackets.
Yeah.
But then they eventually became more and more Citadel miniatures. It was their miniatures, and that's all they became. And I think that's when they started going.
But they were okay because they would sell their own miniatures.
Oh yeah.
But that's not an issue. But because if you had got your miniatures, you were in, and you had other miniatures, and they were part of your army, they were fine with that.
Yeah.
What they went wrong with is when they paired up with Lord of the Rings, because Lord of the Rings banned Games Workshop from allowing the elves and stuff like that to be used in their other games. So you could actually say, oh, those elves, those orcs, Orokai look great. They would look great in my orc army. Nope, you're not allowed to use them in the shop.
Yeah.
So people would stop going into the shop because they would just go to their friend's house because they could use whatever figures they wanted. It was Games Workshop, and it was basically they were told you're not allowed to allow the Lord of the Rings stuff to be used in anything else in your shops. People could still buy them and use them, but they were told in the shop they could not put, if they're playing fantasy, they couldn't put Lord of the Rings figures on the table with them. And that's when it started going. Because people just got annoyed that you're selling great figures. You're selling the figures. So I'm buying them from this shop, but you're telling me I'm not allowed to use them in your shop.
Yeah. I mean, what if people who aren't familiar might have missed in here is that what Games Workshop did, they had, I mean, I used to go to my local Games Workshop when I was on reasonably good terms with someone. Oh, there is. Oh, there is. I won't continue. I won't continue that. Sending you a link then, mate. Yeah. Is that in the shops? They would have stuff. They would have games out. They'd be playing games every day. They would paint. They would do tutorials. They would do painting, and they would have a games night every week where you could go and you could play.
I would go. That's exactly what I would do. I would go down.
That's where I started getting from.
I used to go down every Saturday, every Sunday, and every Wednesday night for a
I mean, that's
game.
what I went on from that one. I went on from people I met at Games Workshop, went on to a games club,
Yep.
which met at a local either a library or the local cricket club at one point. And from that, we went at that and went on that, and from that on, I went on for people and that got into role playing, and that's when I got into role playing. The
Yeah,
mainly,
but that was the thing. You would go down, you would play the game, and you would think, "Oh, I need to get more figures because my army is a bit slot here." And the shop was just here. You go,
yeah.
Can I buy them? And then you would sit down, you would glue them together. Didn't need to be actually painted. Then you'd have another game with that new unit added to your army, and you could see how it played. And if it worked, paint them up ready for the next time.
Well,
so you were getting in playing. And the thing is, White Dwarf is another thing as well. White Dwarf used to be good because they would have scenarios, they would have battle reports. So you could watch somebody else playing your army in a battle report. So there were two of the people from the shop or from the main, from a shop, not your shop, and they would do a battle report. So they would tell you how they built their army, how they positioned it, and then both sides, and then they would tell you about the roles and stuff like that. And it was great. Now it's a case of it's a catalogue. It's no longer a magazine about.
Well, do you remember you're on that? But we're talking about online. But do you remember you used to get you get 2 or 3 pages adverts, and they were photos of the lead. Literally, you could buy arms, you could buy bits, you could buy a weapon, mail order. I've got stuff. You do that, buy loads of mail. So you got this. Okay, so I've got a Terminator, but I don't really like I like that sword. That's a Terminator. Okay, so you could literally order the arm with the sword on it, and it costs you from paper. You could literally do that. So many of those things you could do. You could do so much with them. But now,
stamp the address envelope and a postal order.
Yeah, but now it's just the case.
I remember those.
Apparently, it's just a case of big. I mean, you see. I mean, I've actually got one I'm going to watch later on from a guy who does a lot of these things about the new sets they brought out. They're 10th edition sets and the rest of it, and that seems all they're doing. I'm thinking, how much? So you're telling me that you think 300 quid is a good price? What? And most of it's plastic.
See, as you were saying about at one point, you would buy your figures and think, that whole unit, they've all got bolters. I want one with a flamer. I used to play Necromunda. Same idea. It was the gang. So you would actually write up, but you would have this guy, and they're all standard figures. So, and you're sitting there thinking, I've upgraded his to a flamer, but I've only got a figure with a bolter. So you could buy the arm and change it over. But now what they do is, there's the whole figure. So basically, instead of actually just upgrading your figure you've got with just an arm, as you said, which costs pennies, you're now having to put out £8-9 just to get the whole figure.
Well, you see, I mean, there's several of the videos I like channels I like watching. You see when they do kit bashing and and so many times they have to literally chop a model up, to get one bit from it. Whereas before you'd get, okay, fine, I'll take that ahead. I mean, even when you got the plastic, I mean, I had skeletons, little plastic skellies, and you'd get you'd get say a dozen torsos in about 3 different poses. There'd be the torso and the legs in about 3 or 4 different poses, and then you get arms and skulls that you could pose the skulls any position, pose the legs.
And they were great. They were great for things like, I'll give an example, right? It was actually New Year. We were planning to do nothing, so I was sitting building a chariot. It was a skeleton chariot. So I had the horses, the chariot, and all that, and I thought I need to base it. So I basically just got a bit of card, put the card out, And before I put the flock on it and the dirt on it, I thought, need something. So I went into my bit box, and there's an arm and a skull. So there's basically a skull with the arm coming out. And that is it. Just it's got a skull and an arm. That is it. Another one is basically a half with two arms coming out because I had whatever bits I had. And that's what it was. So it looks like there was about 6 skeletons coming out the ground as the chariot's going forward. I thought, looked really cool. Fair enough. Before I got to finish it, I got a phone call. So-and-so's coming up to wish us a happy new year in an hour. This is 10 to 12. Sorry, this is 10 to 11. We've got an hour to I've got an hour to clear up all my paint and stuff. Because we used to just sit because we weren't planning to do anything. But it was the fact is, you could go into your bit box. You could basically take a skeleton and put an arm from an archer on it. And it's because it was, or you would take one of your archer figures and then suddenly he's a skeleton because his arm is now hanging loose and it's a skeleton arm. Because you could actually make any of your figures you had in your decks. So if you had a unit of 25 bowmen or 25 spearmen, right? But you only needed 20 of them. Now there's 5. You can suddenly actually cut that up with your 10 skeletons and make a unit of 20 skeleton spearmen because it didn't need to all be there. So one of them could actually have one arm as long as it's got a spear.
Yeah.
The other one and stuff like that. And that's what I used to love about it because a hot knife, chop, and that was it.
I mean, you didn't. I'm hoping you haven't sent Julie to sleep here, talking about boy stuff. But yes, exactly.
Well, okay, I'm listening. I'm watching baseball and listening.
Yeah. So great. I quite agree. White Dwarf used to be a great magazine at one point. It's no longer. I think it's just a catalogue to sell you stuff.
Is it? I've not read it for years. So
I stopped reading it about 7 or 8 years ago because it stopped. It went away from battle reports. Even you had Necromunda. You used to get battle reports for Necromunda. You would have Blood Bowl game reports. You would have fantasy battle reports. You would have 40k battle reports, and then you would have stories about someone how they built their army and That all went. It just started more and more. This is a new set coming out. Look, and these are the colours you can paint it. Really? Yeah. Thank you very much for telling me how much you want me to take off and paint it again.
What I really first started noticing it was when not Advanced Hero Quest. No, not Advanced Hero Quest. It's the other one that came out after that. The first one that Games Workshop did themselves rather than having Hasbro do it. Warhammer Quest.
Warhammer Quest.
Warhammer Quest. You got the basic sets. That's great. And then every month they would bring out a figure, and it cost about £6 back in the day. So God knows what that was these days. And you get the cut. You get that. That will be the one for the month. They did it very well, but you get that one, and then you get the card with it because you had a card for how you use it. That's one the rest of it, and then you would have a special in that month's White Dwarf magazine about how to paint it and about the. They did it quite well, but they were becoming more and more, as you say.
I mean, they actually sold you things that you didn't need. And they didn't make you feel as if you were bad for buying them. Like, for instance, you bought Hero Quest. Right? No, actually, you bought Hero Quest was the board game.
Yep.
Right? So you bought Hero Quest and you got all the plastic bits of furniture with the cardboard that bent round.
Yeah.
But if you wanted it, we'll sell you a plastic table. So you could paint it and just go plunk instead of actually having these bits of cardboard, which is already painted. It did the job, but if you wanted to make it look good, we'll sell you it, no problem.
I mean,
and you're sitting there thinking, my God, really? Nowadays, it's a case of how can we make sure you think me? So what we'll do is we'll tell you, we'll just give you a wee card with a bit of, you just put that flat. Doesn't look the same as what you used to get, but if you want to replace it, we'll sell you for £15.
I remember ordering extra figures from Hasbro back when it came. I mean, I have still in a bag in the spare room, bring the lab again. Hero Quest, Advanced Hero Quest. I think I've got Hero Quest Advanced Quest. I think I've got 2 copies of Hero Quest, Advanced Hero Quest, Hero Quest Advanced Quest, Warhammer Quest. I've got Space Crusade. I've got.
I used to have them all, but God knows what happened to them all. The only one I've got left is Blood Bowl.
Yeah, Blood Bowl's about the only one I don't have. I never got into
Blood Bowl. I loved. I still enjoy playing Blood Bowl.
so many.
My son-in-law is actually he likes playing Blood Bowl.
Is that still going, PJ? Blood Bowl,
Yes.
yeah. Wow,
Yeah,
I remember
they
that.
brought
I'm
out a
talking
new-
like
they brought-
1980s.
They brought a new one, and all the figures look a lot better because I used to have the human ones, and yeah, they were all one piece. Now you click them all together, glue them all together, and they actually look really good now.
Well, they've
I'm gonna
also
paint, but
they bought out recently. I'm not sure who bought it because I'm pretty certain it was crowdfunded, so I'm not sure.
the Hero Quest, the
Hero Quest.
They brought that back out.
I think the figures were slightly they're better sculpts, obviously, but almost. I think the only ones they changed the Fimir for something else. They changed the Gargoyle.
No, they basically they
I
changed.
think all the others, I think, are the same. And you can now get You can now get
a female barbarian, a female wizard,
Yeah.
a female dwarf, and
male, whatever the other one was female. Yeah, you can now get male and female. That's a higher tier.
yeah.
But I'm, I mean, if I had the patience, I'd love to get that because it just looks better than the other, simply because it's more modern sculpts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I saw that, I must admit, I was tempted to actually back it, but it's going to sit up myself because I've got nobody to play them with. So Blood Bowl's easy because it's a 2-player game, and my son-in-law actually has been saying he's actually looking to get into it again. So at least I've got the board game up there because my daughter used to play it with us, so she did.
Yeah, I mean they were really great little games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean they don't get me wrong. A lot, I think, from what I've seen. I mean, as I said, I watch a few chats like Midwinter Minis. I watch.
I'm still on ones that actually do battles using the old fantasy rules. I still use it. If I've got a choice watching the old fantasy rules Warhammer or the new, I'll always go to the old ones. I have no interest.
They're supposedly bringing the old world back, aren't they?
Yes.
But,
they're talking about it because I think what it's done is people are actually getting sick of the amount you wrote. Like, for instance, I was watching one, it was 40k, and they were fighting Gene Stealers, but the Space Marines, it was a case of they were just rolling, right, you need to roll a 6, and you're sitting there thinking, he's rolling a 6 no matter what. So you've got one who's maybe a strength 6, and he's rolling a 4, but you've got all these wee goblins, and they just need to roll a 6 as well. And you're sitting there thinking, it just didn't seem to match up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing I think is one thing I did see a lot of complaints about was, again, I mean, a lot of what games and still what they produce these days, a lot of it looks interesting. I mean, the boarding games looks quite interesting, and the close combat ones and this sort of thing. I played Necromunda a couple of times, but I never got into that.
I loved Necromunda. I used to have my Orlok gang, and I had the tower and everything. I used to build my own
Judge Dredd, not Necromunda. Now there you go. If ever was a crossover, there's but one thing I remember seeing is what apparently they started doing was you do this and you get another chapter come out, and that chapter will be upgraded, and you'd have to get that chapter. And in order, and basically it's fine. Okay, so someone will come in with the new chapter, the new set of units, whatever, and they were so overpowered compared to everybody else that you either got wiped out or you had to go and buy the new stuff as well.
That's another thing. That's basically that's what White Dwarf is basically selling you the new stuff, because you were using these ones, the standard Space Marines. You had a unit of 30, and then you would have a good game against somebody maybe who had 40 Tyranids, and it could be a close depending. And then suddenly they brought out the new Tyranid, and they would have 4 of them, they could wipe out your whole unit, and you think, eh? So, they're selling these new units, and then it's basically, and it is that it's just that it's a power. It's the same things happening with Magic the Gathering, and I know Miranda says she hates it with a passion, but I enjoy playing it. I just stopped collecting it, but the new cards are coming out with are more and more powerful. So all the good cards which were fun to play, they're becoming so they're becoming so weak that people have stopped playing them. Yet they were fun to play. I still play them because a lot of my friends just actually they don't buy all the new stuff. They
I mean,
basically stick with the old stuff.
I started off I started off even before that I was a military modern, and I started off with Airfix and Tamiya and the like. So I tended I would have my Space Marine Predator, right? My Space Marine Predator would have a coaxial machine gun. It would have a machine gun on the it would have a machine gun on the commander. Yeah, it would have all these sorts of things that I would put on a Sherman. We'll go on to that and these and just sorting them out.
It was the same idea. I mean, we started playing fantasy war games by remember the wee plastic soldiers you used to get. The Germans were grey, the British were green, the Americans were khaki, the Japanese were. What colour were the Japanese? They weren't yellow because that was
sort of yellowy, weren't
they? No, they were. They used to get the wee figures. The Germans were grey because the uniform. The Americans were khaki. The British were green, and the Japanese. They were. I think they were a yellowy orange colour. But I think it was because remember the uniform was a light. It was almost like a mustard. It was based on the colour of the uniforms.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. It was a mustardy colour.
Yeah.
Well, we used to play with them, and we would have the tanks, the wee Matchbox tanks, and we would do the same as what we used to do. We did later on playing Warhammer. The difference is we weren't taking the dice and roll to see if we would hit. We would take the dice and go boom and see if we could hit. And
yeah.
I mean, we used to do all that, but we started with all these wee teeny figures. Then went into the historical stuff. You had the blues and the greys. It was the American Civil War.
Yeah.
Then you had the red, which were the Highlanders. Then you had the blues, which were the French. And and it's stuff like that. So all these wee figures never get painted because they were small and they were just designed to be stood up and hit with something. Because you remember you used to buy the wee cannon and you could fire a matchstick from it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And some of the tanks used to do that. You put a match in it and go boom and try and actually knock the figures over.
Do you remember you used to get novelty pencil sharpeners? Which, as it happened, were roughly about. So you can think like a caterpillar. Not a catapult. And I remember having it. You can actually work it. It was pencil sharp, but it's something rough this way. Sort of stuff. You could actually probably put that in your. What would it have? Because Airfix would have been 1/72 scale would have been 28 mil is about 1/35, I think. So about 14 mil. So that sort of scale. That would have been about the right sort of thing to use it.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. All those things growing up, and now we get to the point where, we've got the money to buy the stuff, we've got the time to do the stuff, but there's nothing decent out there. Yeah, give me all those wee teeny figures any day of the week, which I have seen you can still buy them. But because I bought a box for my nephew the last time because he wanted toy soldiers, and I got him the wee boxes. I bought him 2 of the boxes of the units because you could buy the units now, the full units with. Actually, I've got a tank, and I think the tank came with some of the figures. I've got it somewhere, and I can't remember where I put the tank because wherever the tank is, There's the tank up there. So that means I put the figures in the box, and it was the same size figures as you used to buy. That's why I bought it. I didn't care enough about the tank because I'll show you. Hold on a wee second.
Oh, cool. Peter, you right. Oh, sorry, go on, Gray.
I was going to say, I had a look on the website for White Dwarf to see what it's like these days, and I got redirected to the web store. It's just like a shopping page.
Exactly. Right. So that's what I bought. Right.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
cool.
Tank in a tin.
Tank in a tin.
Right.
wow.
And as you can see, you would get figures with it.
Cool.
Right? So
that is.
Unfortunately, I don't
is that
think
a chafe?
this has actually got all my bits and pieces. This has got all my body parts for all my figures.
Oh, right. Yes.
But there's the tank there. Right.
And
it's the same, it's the right size for those small figures.
Yeah,
So
it's 72nd, isn't it? 72nd, 76.
Yeah. It's
I remember who was it? I remember was it Matchbox used to do plastic ones?
no Matchbox would do the metal ones.
I know Matchbox did models, but someone used to do the plastic ones. You get like that, exactly like that, but they come in a cardboard box rather than a metal tin.
Oh yeah, you used to get because I used to buy them and build them. That's what I.
Oh no, these like that one pre-built. So literally you might have to. The track might come off, but basically it was literally one plastic thing. Was the kit at all? And I'm trying to think who made them. Airfix made kits, but yeah, I mean as Pete said, they are the F and the coast would have. Oh Lord, those the play sets.
The play sets were great, so they were because I used to have
the dogfight doubles.
Yeah, and even the larger figures. Remember, used to get the figures that size. I remember this long ago. Me and my brother still remember the first joint present we got. Me and my brother a year and a bit apart in age, right? A year and 3 months apart. So obviously to the point where I remember and he remembers. We remember getting one joint present, which was unusual because my mum used to always like to keep our stuff separate because I was slightly older, so she didn't want to get me baby stuff. But when he was old enough, she bought us a joint present, and it was a castle, and it had all the figures. Remember, you used to get the ones on the horse and stuff like that. You would get all the knights, you would get the bowmen, you would get the spearmen and stuff like that. The figures were about that size. So probably the size of your thumb, height-wise. Then you had the ones on the horse. I still remember them. I actually think I've got a box with some Fusiliers that I had. And I found them at my mum's. My dad had passed away, so we were tidying up. And I found a box of my Fusiliers. Badly painted because I did them when I was a kid. I decided to paint them a different colour. Badly. I really painted them badly. So I've still got them in a box somewhere, and it's ones that my mum had found and she'd put aside because she knew she gave me them. I was at the point where I've not got room for toys. Nowadays I'd be going, give me. But it's one of those things. That's why I've ended up with the Ego, not this one. The one that's on the shelf over there. Or is it over there? I can't remember where I put my Ego. I think it's over there. I'll need to check my catalogue. And that was one my mum had put aside for me because she found it one day and she basically knew fine well if she gave it to me, it would have been a case of, it's a toy. So she kept it until I asked for it. And then because it was on a shelf and I said to her one day, where'd you get that? She says, I found it in one of your old toy boxes. Can I get it? She goes, there you go. Well, but anybody else would have binned that or given it away to somebody.
Some of my favourite, I remember I had the Airfix. I think the largest one I ever had, I had the Airfix 148 scale Hurricane. But most of the ones I did, most of the Airfix planes were 172nd. And I had the Dam Busters Lancaster, the Sterling Flying Boat were my favourites. But
I used to have the Spitfire.
Tamiya did some fantastic kits, and what my favourite Tamiya kit. See, now Gray can probably correct me on pronunciation. It's a Japanese word. I'm pronouncing it two different ways there. Was you had a
like that one.
That, yeah. Bom, 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 bom. I used to get the catalogs on it. I used to know most of the World War. Someone came across a World War II aircraft that Tamiya hadn't, that the Airfix hadn't done. I didn't know what it was.
That's the Halifax.
No, I think I had a large one. Yeah, that's kind of. No, I had a large one in that. What were the? No, that's not one. Is that 1/72? I'm not sure.
No,
But
this is a 1 to 104.
I was going to say, yeah, I didn't think that was 1/72.
Yeah, because I remember I used to have them all from my ceiling, and they were
basically
that size.
I mean, the biggest one was the biggest kit I ever made. Was Tamiya did, and it was a 130. It was German kit. It was a half track, right, with the 88mm flat gun, anti-aircraft gun.
Yeah,
on a removable trailer, and it had about half a dozen figures with it as well. And that was one kit. God knows what that would cost these days.
The biggest kit I ever got was my C-3PO and X-Wing, and my brother got R2-D2 and a TIE fighter. The C-3PO was Action Man size.
Wow.
And the X-Wing was about that size, and the wings opened. And the TIE fighter was a big chunky thing. So that was, the body was about that size. Those were figures. They were the biggest figures we'd ever seen. And because me and my brother used to do all the sci-fi stuff at the time. I used to do all the tanks mainly and the airplanes. And
I think
I used to love doing them.
The weirdest thing thinking back is that most of the World War II stuff that I made, a lot of it was Tamiya, and I think it's Tamiya were the ones that had, for example, the LRDG Chevrolet truck and the SAS Rover, and they were Tamiya kits, despite the fact they were British military special forces units. No one in the UK, no one over here made them, I don't think. So I had several of them.
There's still a place in Glasgow, a model shop in Glasgow. So as you can still go in and buy your model kit, your Airfix model kits.
Well, I was saying a while ago I remember, unfortunately, Miranda says it's no longer there, but there used to be a shop when I used to go to, when I used to go to Rochester Castle, and it was a big shop, and it was a big model shop, and it's again same thing, models. Everybody used to get all the flock and the stuff to actually make backgrounds and all the rest of it. You know,
I would need to dig out one of these drawers, but I've got a drawer full of stuff for me, because I used to do it even up until about 3-4 years ago. This stopped me because I would paint my own figures and do my own scenery. I would build D&D sets for when we were playing games.
Yeah.
I've got a bag. I've got a whole drawer full of flock and basically moss and stuff like that for building them all. But my daughters used to actually do crochet, so she did.
My mum used to do it. Well, the thing is, you said it, but the thing is, I remember Airfix in particular. I don't remember anybody, but Airfix used to do kits which were, I don't necessarily want to say more girly, but was certainly not the. They used to do historical kits. They would. I remember they had a series of kits which were garden birds, like Robin, and you know. So they weren't only boyish military type stuff. So you know, you'd have, as I say, you'd have. I mean, I remember they used to do historical figures. They did Henry VIII's wives, for example. You know,
some of them came without a head.
No, that was the Aurora versions. That came with the head was separate. The Aurora horror movies, it was separate.
My uncle used to actually build all the hammer stuff. As I said, they were luminous, and then he would paint them luminous. So he would build them all and paint them with luminous.
Do you not remember you used to get an American company, Aurora, and they did a lot of horror. They were more. They were not Hammer. What was the other one? The American ones that did a lot of Hammer. They did Dracula, and my brain's just brain farted on.
Right, you had the Hammer horror.
No.
And,
Who did all those ones in America? Which studio did it in the States? Did Frankenstein and Dracula and that? It's not a trick question. My brain's just frozen on what the company was called.
What was that about Frankenstein in the States?
Who used to do
Who did the movies? The horror movies?
The old movies. Was it Paramount?
Oh God, I don't remember. Hold on, we can look this up.
Oh no, but there was a fun one. But what they did, that Creature of the Black Lagoon, I remember having, and what they do is you do them, and they would be the actual faces and hands of skin would actually be go in the dark. Yeah.
So the first one was from 1931.
Universal.
Universal, that's it. Thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
Universal Monsters. Yeah.
All right, I never would know
I
that.
looked at the bottom. Yeah,
No,
I recently dug at that and looked in the bottom.
yeah,
Universal.
I literally
funny.
couldn't remember who it was. Yeah.
The very first one with Colin Clive playing Dr. Frankenstein, he played Rochester in a really unintentionally hilarious version of Jane Eyre.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Now-
terrible.
Now, if we
I
could
mean,
get
Jane
someone
is
to
a
make
tall, gorgeous blonde, and in the book, she's not.
now if we could get someone to make a range of Jane Eyre figures, we get Julie interested.
Hey, I have
Yeah.
a Jane Austen figure. Remember that?
No, I mean, in fact, I'm
But ones that you can actually
surprised-
build yourself, you can glue
No,
and
that I don't
assemble
have.
yourself.
And I
Yeah.
do have a couple of Pride and Prejudice games,
Oh,
board
wow.
games.
Wow, interesting.
Yes, and
I
there's
mean,
there's even Regency area video games, and I tried one
Wow.
and I couldn't stick with it. I thought it was dull.
Well, come to think of it, in
It
fact,
was very old.
these days, what you've now got, I mean, the other thing you've now got that's coming in that I have that wasn't even on the horizon when I was in the modern industry is 3D printing. And you get a lot of, I mean, I've seen people where they get, you can actually get 3D printed models, almost anything, design them yourselves. So I can't see
A
why
lot of company, Games Workshop, frown upon it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I mean, I can't see why you couldn't, if you had the skills and something, why you couldn't make a model kit. You could print your own model kit of, for example, Mr. Rochester, of Jane Eyre, of Mr. I can't see why you couldn't actually do it. I'm just not sure
You
anybody
need
would.
to have the skills, I suppose, to do the
Yeah.
design.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're a designer, if you're a designer, I mean, you got people to design them. I mean, I was watching. Oh God, I dread to think how much they cost as well, Miranda. But I was watching Midwinter Minis, and he was doing. I can't remember what it was he was making, but he had someone actually designed for him half the face because he was having a. What they're doing is him and Squidmore Miniatures. They've both been doing. The most expensive Games Workshop model, £1,500 for a Warlord Titan, the biggest model they do.
It was 6'2" or something like
Yeah,
that.
but what Squidmore are doing, they're actually doing them. They don't have a battle. Actually, no, it was Squidmore. It wasn't Midwinter. Making a battle scene, but they've got literally. So you literally. As long as you've got the skills and the software to actually design what you want, you can have it printed out. So I can't see why you can't do that. I'm just not sure anybody would actually. I'm not sure how far those two interests cover that you would want to download and print resin model that you then put together and paint of whoever. But I can't see any reason it couldn't be doneable.
It
can't be done.
can be done. I've got a couple of 3D printed Yorkies.
Yeah.
And the less
But they don't taste as good as the real thing.
I know they're less hassle, believe me. But but yeah, somebody had actually printed for my wife because he knew she had Yorkies. Printed a couple of Yorkies that size, and they're just basically silver. But my God, the detail in them is amazing.
Yeah.
And he just did the 3D printing. But
That's
one of my friends has got a 3D printer, and he keeps on, and I keep on saying, I'll need to get the my ego has not got any parcel, and it says, I'll 3D print it for you. Just get me the design. Even if I could get you the design, I've no idea where to get it because you need to log into a lot of these websites and pay for them. And I don't want to log in and pay for something if you can't do it. You need to actually get it and I'll pay you. But it's one of those things. He's always busy and I'm always busy, so we never get down to it. But I keep on saying, I need to get this, I need to get that, I need to get this. Yeah, I would love a 3D printer and just print myself, but then again, you need to sand everything down.
Yeah.
And, I just I've not got the skills to do
exactly
the fiddly stuff.
I mean, I'm that far. I don't think I've ever. I don't remember ever having done resin. I mean, back when I was for crying out loud, like I said, when I say I've got a lot of lead, I mean lead, not just pewter. I think some of the stuff is probably that old. It probably is lead figurines.
Well, a lot of my figures are actually. It was never. It was milliput. To make any amendments, I used to do the milliput because that was easy. It's like working with plasticine. Then just just leave it and let it solidify. So
yeah, the way the way I've done those things. I mean, I even got. I used to have I get skeletons and I get you'd get wet tissue paper, some skin and flesh left on it, so it's not a complete skeleton and things like that.
Yeah,
actually, I was only going to million what things. So it's all. I mean, you watch some of these channels and what they can do now. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, but see, one of my friends is I think the one he's got is a filament one, but he's very, very careful when he doesn't unspill.
Why? I mean,
just imagine it's like a fishing line. Fishing lines are great when you cast them out and reel them back in, but if they go boom, and then you have to actually sit and wind them up, you start winding them to a point where they never actually seem to come on loose properly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I've not done it in such a long time that I remember those things. But the stuff that's available out there now is. I mean, I remember half jokingly saying when 3D printers first started coming out, okay, so in 50 years' time, you plonk a freaking great 3D printer down. You'll come back 2 days later and there'll be a building for you. You won't even need building sites anymore.
That's not even they can 3D print a house just now.
Well, yeah, but you've got to put it together. But I mean,
no. They can 3D print a house now. It's basically, I think it's in India they're doing it, and it's basically it's mixing the mud with something, and it basically it basically builds it up.
Wow!
So it does. You do a search on YouTube, 3D printing houses.
Wow!
It's basically this just big mechanical arm just goes round and it's builds a house, and it's actually it can build it so they can actually put it's got gaps in it so it can keep the cool and the heat in, cool it and whatever. So it's amazing what they can do.
Yeah, I mean, Lenny, do you remember the extreme other end where you'd make a spaceship out of a fairy liquid bottle?
Yes, this is one I created earlier.
Yeah, the blueprint. I mean, they literally did that, and you'd put wings and
yeah.
I mean,
I remember all that.
So I remember one of my favourite ones was the I think the only jet plane ever to see action in Second World War was the ME-262. Beautiful looking plane, but I remember having some of those ones and painting them up and painting over the cockpit so they look like, because they look like spaceships.
I know. I've still got odds and ends in here that I'd got to do a conversion, and I never get round to it. I've actually got a gun I was going to make into a Judge Dredd shotgun, and I never got round to it. I've still got the Nerf gun sitting there because I was going to make it into a shotgun. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going to spray paint it. I was going to cut the barrel off it, everything, and stopped me. So it did.
Yeah,
I've still got the Nerf gun. It's literally sitting right there, so it is the Nerf gun. I'll need to dig it out. Hold on a wee sec. I'm going to go and dig it out. So, see, I remember Milliput. It was the green stuff. It was, the blue and the yellow made it green. The blue and the yellow. I remember that much. The blue and the yellow stuff. So, need to clear a bit of space. Hold on.
I know. It was one of the things you could do were limited by your imagination.
Well, exactly. I know. Some of us have no imagination left.
No, which explains why we're not getting it. Why we're not talking anything modern geeky, because there isn't anything really. I was saying to someone the other day. I think the only thing I'm in the least bit looking forward to, given that I don't do cinema, is June. I don't think there's anything else upcoming on TV. Well, new that I'm looking for. I mean, obviously, even geeky or non-geeky. I mean, the only non-geeky stuff will be Beyond Paradise, Death in Paradise when they come back, and if there's a third season of Sister Boniface. That's like the only things I'm even interested in looking forward to. Most of the stuff I watch these days, or watch anything, is either YouTube stuff or it's old stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm the same. I watched that Sister Boniface because you said, but that's the Nerf gun, right? And it was ideal because you just unclipped this end, so take the stock off it, and then you've got the shotgun bit, and then all I would have done is taken this off and a pipe, just a 1-inch pipe, just sticking out, and then just plastic down there, so it would have and then covered that bit there, so, and then spray painted it black. Obviously take that off, so there would have been no big barrel, and it would have been a short barrel about that much, and it would have been a 1-inch barrel, and it would have been covered with plastic, to be basically plastic board to cover in the gap, and then spray painted black, and that would have been my shotgun, my Judge Dredd shotgun. It would have worked, but now it just sits there, and any time the kids are up, they sit and play with it. But I keep the Nerf bullets away.
You mean you let kids play with the guns, toy guns, PJ? How
they don't get any Nerf bullets because I don't want them knocking things off my shelves.
Yeah, exactly.
So they can.
What they do outside's fine, isn't it?
Yeah. So wow. It's basically the cop. Actually, it's quite powerful considering.
So they do the same thing in the UK as they do in the US. They put bright orange or something on it to make people know that it's fake.
Even if I spray painted that black to make it look like anything, it needs to have the orange on it.
Yeah, same here.
I'm looking for a particular one. I saw one. It's made out of wood, and it's got a big orange bit, and I don't mind that because the gun itself I want. Which if I bought it, I need to be a member of a club. Like Colin could buy it because he's a member of a reenactment club. I can't, because we can actually, you can go into some of the show and they show them, but you're not allowed to buy them unless you're a reenactor.
Well, I live in Florida, where effective July 1st, you can carry a gun without a carry permit.
You know why that is? It's because everybody from California is moving down to Florida.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I've actually owned a gun for a couple of years. It's never been taken out of the box because I kept waiting to get around to taking my concealed carry class. And now I don't have to, but I still want to take a class, for the safety class and learning how to clean it and all that other good stuff. So I have one. Even my 80-something-year-old mother has one. We're not telling my brother because he will not stay in a house where there's a gun. So
That sounds like a good way to keep
he
him
won't
away.
want to. He stays at my mother's house. He won't want to. So we're not telling him.
Yeah,
Well,
now because he knows you're on here.
And I don't think so. And he's from California.
So he's a Californian. He wouldn't watch this.
No.
Well, I was watching Owen and Darth.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that's my watch. It thought I was talking to it.
They were talking because I was in Georgia. I'm not sure where Arlena is, but she's an ex-Marine, U.S. Marine. So
Cool.
they were talking about the Second Amendment and these sort of things. And I was saying, as someone from outside looking in, interesting discussion how you could perhaps interpret the exact wording. But what I said is, I would have thought that I would have thought the best option would be to say, yes, you have to have a license to have a firearm.
Well,
But in order to get, the only thing you have to do in order to get that license is prove that you've done a training course for safety.
no, I
No
don't
other
mind
restrictions.
that. I don't mind that because you have, with a car,
Exactly,
you
yeah.
have to have a driving license. You have to have been able to take tests. I personally do not mind that. I am not, in that sense, a Second Amendment absolutist. I do believe that you should have the right to have a gun. I mean, look what's happening in Australia and Canada.
Oh,
The government has confiscated guns, and those countries are more and more and more authoritarian.
Scotland.
Yeah. Well,
The
thing that really makes me laugh about that is I say, okay, is the people that are against gun ownership seem to have the idea that, okay, well, if we make owning guns illegal, all these criminals who want to use their weapons for criminal purposes will obey the law.
Of course they will.
I'm sorry,
that's
hold
why
on a
they're
second.
criminals.
Do you actually get
You
the
saw that?
concept?
That was one of the tweets. Did you not see that tweet?
I saw it this morning.
If they ban guns, and your attitude is, if a criminal comes up with a gun and I pull out my gun, if it was illegal to carry a gun, how could he have a gun? And I'm sitting there thinking, really? These nutcases think that.
I saw an interesting statistic this morning. If you remove New York, maybe not New York, but Los Angeles, Chicago in particular, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Detroit, all of which are blue cities and all of which have multiple murders per day. If you remove those, the U.S. doesn't have a whole lot of gun violence.
No.
And they're all cities with a very strict gun.
Well, that's my point. I mean, Chicago's got the gall to blame, nearby Indiana or nearby Iowa, where they don't have as many rules.
Well, I love the idea that they come up with this. Just to show that I got some words. Oh, look, a lot of the worst states for gun violence are red states. Yes, and where does most of that gun violence occur? In blue cities.
Exactly.
Peter, I can go you one better than that, Peter. When I was in the TA, I had a Star Wars blaster as my official weapon. Because I had the Star Wars blaster, original series Star Wars blaster was my personal weapon.
With silly string?
No.
Oh.
With 9mm ammunition.
Wow.
Because the Star Wars blaster is a Sterling 9mm Sterling submachine gun, block folded down, no magazine, a box over the foresight in 2 wides, and that is literally it. So we used to joke that for a while sterling because my role as data telegraphist was basically to be sitting in an office on the back of a lorry most of the time.
So anytime you fired it, you missed anyway. So
exactly.
Well,
it's weird. The weirdest thing is my favourite weapons were the close range ones because when I was a radio op, I was supposed to in the back of back of a Land Rover, but we'd be out a lot of time as well. The 9mm, the 7.62 single inch SLR back before the bullpup design came in. It's in the 70s and early 80s.
I love the SLR. I think it just looked classic.
But
I used to love the SLR with my Batman. No, my Batman. Sorry, my Action Man. I had the Action Man, and he had the SLR. I think the SLR just slim.
But then the Sterling was the 9mm submachine gun, and that's to say, if you see a original series Star Wars blaster, that is literally what they did. They took a Sterling, it had a folding stock, so they folded the stock down underneath the weapon, and literally, instead of the front iron sights, there's a box over the iron sights, and there's a couple of wires coming from it, if I remember right. So it's literally the Star Wars blaster used to be my personal weapon.
The only gun I've actually ever shot with live ammunition is a 9mm Glock. I did volunteer work for the NYPD many years ago, and they took us to different police NYPD shooting ranges. So I got to shoot at the police academy. I got to shoot at a bunch of different places.
You got to shoot at the police academy. Did someone tell the police academy you're going to be shooting at them?
Well, I was just
there was no Steve Gut. No Steve
Miranda's got a plastic BB 1911 pistol. I've got a BB PPK.
Wow. Is that
yes.
Cool.
Oh,
there you go.
As somebody who watches Midsummer Murders, I'm amazed at how many guns are featured in that show.
Yeah. Well,
So
we
my James Bond gun. That's my James Bond.
We had them until we never had the history of firearm use and ownership that you guys had in the States.
Right.
Different cultures, no problem with that. But we did the thing that really I think did or the excuse
galvanized it was the
Hungerford and Dunblane.
Yes,
you had a couple of school shootings.
I remember those.
And that is what effectively made the British government effectively ban.
Yeah, so in effect, so now people just go around stabbing people.
Exactly. Well, yes, I mean this is the other argument. So okay, fine. People don't carry guns. They're going to carry something else instead. We literally have a sort of semi-joke here about butter knives.
Right, exactly. Hey, a ballpoint pen could kill somebody if you stab them in the right place.
Yeah.
Listen, Mrs. Wick.
What was that?
It was the John Wick reference.
Oh, sorry.
He stabbed him in the neck. He killed him with a pencil, with a fucking pencil. It's just Mrs.
A letter opener could kill somebody.
Yeah.
Hey,
I mean, it's ridiculous.
letter openers are extremely. Where is it? Where are you? Somebody's actually taken my letter opener.
Yeah, letter openers can kill people.
Yeah. Anything with a point.
Scissors, ballpoints, anything. Well,
and some things can't kill you, but you might wish you got killed.
Remember the movie Dead Again? Scissors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, basically, scissors are only dangerous if you run with them.
Mm-hmm. We literally one letter. So okay, I'm just.
Dead Again was such a good movie, but yes, there were scissors.
Do is when we do an archery, we make sure you're doing it. Remember, when you're walking back, if you're walking back, you carry the arrows point down. So if you trip up, they're going to go down or up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, any pointed
play
object.
Darts. You go to your local pub and play darts. You could kill somebody.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, in England at one point, in pubs, they used to actually have a rifle range.
Okay.
It initially started as a archery range in pubs,
Wow.
but during the after the war, was it before the war? After the First World War, between wars, they used to have a rifle range in it, so you would literally be shooting over the heads.
I never knew that.
Oh, It's basically it's just one of those things because after the war, after both wars, weapons came back into circulation because obviously people were bringing home their weapons or souvenirs that they'd picked up, and you had obviously farmers, shotguns and stuff like that, which you could still get an arse full of buckshot for trespassing or a dog worrying sheep and cattle up here. But one of my friends, he's got a hunting license, so he's got his gun. He goes out, goes into the thingy,
and they'll make you go hunting with an air rifle.
PJ, would you mind if I put a couple of pics up for comparison?
Not a problem.
Okay, right. This. Okay, hold on. If I can remember how to do it. This one, right? Because what I was going to say was share screen. Page tab. Right. This is a Stormtrooper blaster, right? Or that it's a prop of a Stormtrooper. Okay, Star Wars Stormtrooper weapon. Yep. Whereas one. I do know what I'm doing, honestly. Whereas this, if I can find it, is a Sterling submachine gun.
Same here, Peter. I learnt it from QI as well.
I love QI. love QI.
Only the early stuff. A big Stephen Fry fan.
Okay.
I mean,
Sandy
I
Todd,
do still watch it with Sandy, but I prefer Stephen. But I watch it still with Sandy because I still love learning the trivia.
I like a majority of it. She's not as much fun, and
she takes herself way too seriously.
Yes, whereas Stephen took himself too seriously, but everybody's quite happy to nip at him.
Oh, Stephen's brilliant.
Yeah,
I loved his "Who Do You Think You Are."
I haven't seen that. I don't.
It is an absolute tearjerker.
And why would you want to watch something that makes you cry?
Well, because it's really good. He found out. I mean, it's funny. Everybody thinks of him as the consummate posh Englishman, but his mother's family's Jewish, and he has relatively close relatives who died in the Holocaust.
I knew that because I remember him saying because
meanwhile he's half Jewish and he loves Wagner. Go figure.
Well, I think he was saying. I remember him saying somewhat in an interview that his I'm pretty sure it that his grandparents are from Hungary. I think.
Yeah, his mother's family is Jewish, so he's as far as religious Jews are concerned, he's Jewish.
Yeah, but no, because I remember him saying in an interview somewhere that because his grandfather always had trouble, so he always used to pronounce pineapple upside down, because Piniapsally upside kake. Because I remember him saying that I think his family was Hungarian or
somewhere in Eastern Europe, and they did. Lots of them died in the Holocaust, and he had no idea. And when I say it's a tearjerker, that's why is when he finds out how many of his relatives died under Nazi occupation. It's really heartbreaking.
Well, the one that interested me that I did see was I've forgotten the chat.
Danny Dyer?
No, not Danny Dyer. The guy, I've forgotten the guy's name. He used to be the BBC back before the BBC went completely insane. He used to be the BBC's defence correspondent.
Oh.
And he was actually injured. I think he was injured on something. He's in a wheelchair, or he wasn't. But they traced his ancestry back, and he's going back. And they traced him back, and they said they traced him back to one of the Edwards, which of course he said if actually means, but which at that point, because from you can trace back directly or indirectly all the way back from there to
Charlemagne.
but as far from a British point of view, all the way back to William the Conqueror.
Right. Well, of course. Well, Courtney Cox was in an episode here in the States. Unfortunately, we cannot get the BBC version. We used to be able to see some YouTube episodes, but they're all pulled. So I can't watch them. I desperately want to, and I keep begging BritBox to let us have them, and they won't.
VPN.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to have to get a VPN. I'm going to have to. But anyway, so there was a U.S. episode with Courtney Cox, and she found out that she's descended from Edward II. And of course, I know all about Edward II and what happened, but she didn't. So that was really interesting. Yes, and Peter, Danny Dyer does have royal connections. He is also descended from, I think, Edward III.
Well, because the thing is, what they didn't, they took a while to point out, it's the basic. You can go through from William the Conqueror. It is literally a direct line
I mean,
of
if you're
descent.
descended from a British king or queen, you're obviously descended from William the Conqueror.
But I mean, it is
further back, Charlemagne.
Yeah, down to I mean, it only really becomes extremely wide, extremely convoluted. And
of course.
Direct.
Younger son of younger son of younger son of younger son.
Yeah, but Richard III and Henry Tudor, because up to Richard III, there was a pretty much direct. They go up exactly, son here, and the rest of it. But what was referred to the Wars of the Roses, they called the Cousins' War,
right?
Because it was just within one extended royal family until the Tudors come in. Even Henry Tudor had connections.
Well, Margaret Beaufort.
Yeah. So up until that, you can literally trace it. If you can trace it, I can't remember exactly without working out what the range is. But there's a certain point in which case you go right. Fine, okay, that is immediately father, grandfather, literally back about 7 or 8 generations back to William the Conqueror.
Right.
And as you say, from William the Conqueror back to who cares about the Europeans?
Brooke Shields was in the U.S. version of the show. And she's related to Charlemagne through the French royal family.
Wow.
And Cindy Crawford is descended from the British royal family back to, obviously, William the Conqueror and Charlemagne. And I am, our family has a family joke that we are related to Her Majesty Elizabeth the Queen Mother. Oh, I just heard thunder. Long story, but it was through our Scottish relative, our Scottish side, that ended up moving to Ireland. So, they're part of the same clan that the Lionses were from.
Well, this the thing.
There's worse people to. At least we're not related to Meghan because she's related to Harry on the Bowes side.
Oh, thank God for that. Who would want to relate to
see, well, my mother's side are Scottish. So her family, they fought with the Campbells. They fought with
the Campbells destroyed my
Scotland. I know the part side to this one.
Shut up, you. They fought with the Campbells. They fought with the Stuarts. They basically fought with everybody. They couldn't get on with anybody. I know, you bloody ruined it. You put me off my stroke.
No, I just said I knew where I was going.
Exactly, you put me off my stroke, you. That's a good old one. Yeah, but no, my father's father was Italian. His mother was Irish. My mum and my mum's both sides were Scottish. One Highlander, one Lowlander. So that's it.
That's a good combination.
Yeah. So but well. Anyway, great. Are you no talking?
I'm here. I'm just slowly waking up.
Yeah.
I can see why.
Especially the time somebody actually had to go to bed. Used to actually set the alarm for 4 hours.
I can't believe
I still missed it as well, PJ. I didn't get up till 5.
Well, that's the way it goes. So, what have you been up to?
I've got something to recommend. I watched the Netflix new series about sumo wrestling. It's called Sanctuary, and it was so much fun. It was really good.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. I don't have Netflix, but
Okay. It just came out in May, so it's quite new.
well, I'm sure there's other ways to find it.
I'm sure. Yeah, there are.
It's really got to,
Sanctuary, did you say?
Yeah, Sanctuary. I think there's a movie called that as well, or there's a few things, but this is a new TV series. It's in Japanese, of course, but it was fascinating seeing the kind of behind the scenes of the sumo world.
Is it subtitled?
It's got dubbing and it's also subtitled. You can, but I don't recommend the dubbing.
Japanese.
I'll say again. Sorry.
You speak good enough Japanese for that? Is your Japanese good enough to follow the movie? Is what I'm asking.
No, especially when it gets to like technical words, you know, to do with the sports and things. It gets a little bit like I don't know what they're talking about. Oh my gosh! But I can get that basic conversation.
Wow,
no problem.
I'm duly impressed.
But it's nice to see a series that has like a really flawed character, you know, somebody you almost can't stand in the beginning, and the way they kind of show his story, how he changes. It was really good. Good characters.
That's what you need. Good characters that actually can do that.
Yeah. Well, I was watching. I noticed before we started, I was watching. Critical Drink has just dropped another one of his what's wrong with modern movies, and he's about the strong female character.
Jennifer Lawrence.
But no, about the idea that it's comparing to some of the early what does make a good female character, and there was I can't remember. I've forgotten. It was a famous actress for saying I can't remember who it was, but apparently she in an interview that if she sees a script that starts to describe a strong female character, she immediately says no, she doesn't want it because it's going to be boring.
Interesting.
And it's not a modern day actress. I can't remember who it was, but it's one who's been around for quite a while, and she has done the strong character sorts of things.
But see, it's the same idea. You look at Idris Elba. They said they were talking about him being the next James Bond, and he says, no, I don't want to be the first black man to play James Bond. He says, if I want to play James Bond, I just want to be James Bond. But he knows if he's the first black man to play James Bond, that's all it'll be about. And he said, nope. And that's what it is. You need people who have got the talent to turn around and go, no, if you're just putting me in that just so you can see that, there's no point. You need to, because there's a lot of good actors that can do a lot of really good stuff, but they won't, because the people don't care that they're a good actor. They just care if they're the right actor. And a lot of good actors are actually aware of that and just turn around and say, don't even consider me. Which is what you need. I was going to say, I can never remember ever seeing on the TV sumo. The only one I used to watch, which wasn't the typical US or UK sports, was kabaddi. Used to be on a Sunday, an Indian one, and that was a good one. Kabaddi is effectively TIG or tag, depends what country we're talking about, but you would have one person goes across the line into the other team's half. They all join hands and try and catch that person. And that person's object is to tag their opponent and run back and get over the line before they get caught. And anybody that's tagged is out until you go down to one team's completely empty. But they have to hold their breath when they're going across the line into the opponent's half. Hence the reason why they have to chant kabaddi, 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 just to make sure they're holding their breath. So they've got a time limit how long they can hold their breath, but they still have to move fast, hit people and get back without getting caught. So I used to love kabaddi, and I've seen it. I've not seen it in the TV for years, and I wish it was back on. It's the one sport I actually enjoyed watching. I'm not normally one for sport, but kabaddi was one of the best ones because it's one that I could understand.
What country is
What's
that
the
from?
opposite? Eh?
What country is that from, PJ?
It's India.
Okay, yeah, I've heard the name, but I don't know it. Just heard the
It's
name.
India. It is absolutely superb. It's just it's a type of movie, a type of sport that, like football, you don't need to be a super sportsman to play football. Hence the reason why a lot of people enjoy it. Whereas rugby, what's the chances you get to play rugby with your friends? Very unlikely. Whereas football, easy. Kabaddi is a similar idea to playing tag or tig, as we call it. And it is that type of thing. So you can sit and watch it and enjoy it because you don't need to know all the ins and outs, like they have to throw the ball backwards when things like that. So there's not a lot of rules apart from they've got a limit to get over, tig, and get back, and without getting caught. It's a type of thing you could just imagine a load of kids playing. Whereas the same idea, I suppose it's like in America, it would be like baseball compared to American football. Whereas they've got a ball, a stick, and a group of people, they could actually just play it. It's the same as like cricket. It's one of those ones, or rounders as we used to call it. So it's things. It's one of those sports that you can just imagine a load of kids playing it, and it's just so much fun to watch. Especially how professional these guys and girls are at it. And some of the teams, it's obviously there's teams from railroad companies, so and tea companies and stuff like that. So it's not like what would you call it, like Inverness Caledonian or Glasgow Celtic. You would have things like India Calcutta Railway A team, that type of thing. So it was such a fascinating thing to watch. And I have seen it once in the last 2 years, and it was something they were talking about sports across the world, and kabaddi was shown, and I just sat back and I just thought, oh, I wish they would put that back on the TV. But Dickie Davis, even I remembered him with his hair.
Yes, I was never into sports. My abiding memory for that is being pissed off when anything overran because bugger off, Doctor Who should be on.
Yeah.
And I remember one. I do remember there was one occasion when they were I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was some big sports event on. I genuinely can't remember what it was. No, actually, no, I think it was Wimbledon, and it was delayed because, oddly enough, BBC Two were showing repeats of John Pertwee Doctor Who, and I actually delayed Wimbledon for the Doctor Who or something. And I thought, yes, at last they got the priorities right.
That's really funny.
Well, I mean, the weird thing is, I've never ever been into sports ball. The closest I came was when I was a teenager. My dad took me to a football game at our local football club, and I crept out at half time and went shopping and never bothered going back. I just wasn't interested. But when I had a Channel 4 or Channel 5, I can't remember which it was. I think it was one of Channel 4 was first being mooted. I was all in favour saying, okay, fine, make that a sports channel. BBC and ITV, the ITV companies get together, so you've got pool your abilities, right? So because when that came out, we'd already had satellite was coming in. We'd already got some satellite cable coming in, and they were the ones like Sky Sports and were the ones that were buying a lot of the sports things. So things were on Sky Sports, but they weren't on terrestrial TV. Didn't bother me at all, but I thought, okay, no, fair enough. But I know a lot of people do most of my family went to various sports. So I thought, okay, I thought what they should have done is they should have got together. They should have bought the license for, I think it was Channel 4 when it came out. Might have been 5. okay, made that a terrestrial sports channel, then you can combine you can combine your resources for all the big sporting events. You can put stuff on it. You don't have to bother people. You don't have to put stuff over stuff that other people want to watch that aren't sports fans. Because the one thing I do remember was sometime back in the 90s, we had to host, I think it was the Eurovision Sports, whatever it is, the European football. And I remember they actually did it quite well because BBC and ITV had an arrangement and they split it between them. And there was one game in the morning and one game in the afternoon. And there was a particular day when, by the luck of the draw, Scotland was playing in the morning and England was playing in the afternoon, or vice versa. They weren't playing each other. And because it was home teams, both channels showed both games.
Aye, and maybe in England, both channels showed both games, but in Scotland, they normally show the English game and not the Scottish game.
Well, no. Something. This was one particular thing for the European finals. So for European football, so they again, obviously I can't speak to what happened in Scotland, but what they did on this one, so I thought, okay, they did it quite well until they get to this point, and whichever team it was that were playing in the morning was so inefficient they couldn't even finish the job in 90 minutes, and I had to go into overtime. And then you got the talking heads with it. So basically, you had, if my memory tells me, you had something like 6 or 7 hours of football on the two main bloody channels.
Yeah, but the problem is the
on one off, obviously.
Channels. There's no way on earth they're ever going to give up the possibility to get money. Because you imagine if Channel 4 or Channel 5 came in and it was a sports, then all those sports programs are gone, and where they're getting the money. BBC obviously don't need it, but they still want it because it means there are people watching them instead of other channels.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I'm saying, obviously it's very different now. But as I said, this was back in I think this was in the 90s that there was this the footballs in this country. I said, this was back when another 4 or 5 came out, so that was what I would like to have seen happen. I said, I say selfish reasons gets the sport out of my way. I'm never interrupted by it. Non-selfish reasons, terrestrial viewers to get to watch it, and they've got more chance to watch it rather than it being hooked off onto cable or satellite or something. But obviously that's the same. That's what 30, 40 years ago now.
Yeah,
very different situation now.
I know, but it's just one of those things. But I was never a big one for sports. Went to football once, and I got bored, and I just kept walking up and down to get a pork pie.
Well, your football, no wonder you just go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and nobody ever scores. Who cares?
Yeah, but at least
it's called football for a reason.
No, I agree.
It doesn't stop every time someone touches the ball.
But it's a lot more exciting.
It's not
it's only exciting for about 5-10 seconds, then they all stop and all crowd up again. And actually
I prefer hockey. That's why I prefer hockey.
American football is basically rugby played by men in plastic armor.
Agreed. That's why I prefer hockey. They also wear plastic armor, but hockey players, if they get their tooth knocked out during the game,
probably need it,
they come right back. They get stitches, and then they come back out on the ice.
I said, from what I've seen of hockey, especially ice hockey, they probably do need the armor.
Hockey players are the toughest guys around. Seriously.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah. The nearest I ever got to sport is my school asking me to play for their team, and I said, no way am I giving up a Saturday, because Saturday was cartoon morning. My brother used to play for the team, and they used to shout at me because I told them no, because I didn't care about football. So when they said, oh, you scored a goal, did I? What was I meant to do? It was just running up and told me to kick a ball that way, so I kicked the ball that way, and I didn't care what I was doing. So, but my brother was the goalkeeper, and I got into trouble because they asked me to play, and I said no.
I scored a goal once because in I went to grammar school, and we had our schools in this country had, I don't know if they still do this, they had they broke you into houses. Think Harry Potter, right? I mean, we said you use Harry Potter as an example because literally you got houses and you had your house colours, and my house colour was yellow, so my football strip I had a yellow top on, but we were playing pace, I think, which was green, and I had a green. I remember I had a green sweatshirt, sweatsuit, tracksuit top on, and I was playing, and I remember kicking the ball up. I was very green, and then I took the thing off. So I was basically, I was almost looked like I was a green player. I went up and kicked it in, and was disqualified because I was wearing the green top. But that was my level of interest in football. Was, okay, fine, I'll disguise. I'll put myself in camouflage and go and score. But
I used to actually. I was just, to me, I was rubbish at football because anytime I get near the goals, I used to kick the ball as hard as I could, as far as away as possible, and it didn't matter if I was at their goal or my goal. I never actually aimed at the goals; I always aimed away because I wasn't paying attention to outside if we changed. So if I had the ball near the goal, I would kick it away, or I would kick it in, and half the time I didn't know what I was doing. So
I used to do if I had to play football or shadow at school, I used to play fullbacks. I used to spend most of the game leaning on the goalpost talking to the goalkeeper. But
yeah,
we had to do cross country running.
I remember that. God, I hated that.
Yeah. Well, but because where my school was situated, school still is situated there. It's a sixth form college now. Where we did our run, we actually did our running near the Thames at Runnymede. So running, but we also did. I had to get 2 buses to get to school. At one point, I took up rowing simply because where the rowing club was, I did the Cox bit, the pool. I didn't do the actual.
Good night, Miranda.
Oh, night, Miranda.
Hi, Miranda. Hope to see you tomorrow.
Yep. And I was the reason I did that was quite simple. I'd go out with pack up, and then I wouldn't go back to school. I would just walk over the bridge and get the bus because it was where I changed buses. So the school didn't make me go back to school to get the bus again. You know, I had absolutely. You probably tell from the shape I've been in all my life that I was never a sports person.
Yeah, well, the one thing I remember about cross country running, we used to always complain, could we get some country to cross, please? Because we would go out one gate of the school, go down the steps, along the road in front of the school. There was a park, but we weren't allowed to cut across the grass. We had to stay in the path until we got up to the other gate of the path. Then we would go along the street and then come down the stairs and back into the school. So in effect, the only time we actually touched grass in the cross country is if we came off the path in the park, which we weren't allowed to do. And we would have to do that twice, and that was for cross country. I hated cross country.
I remember we used to have in this country back in the 70s in particular, we did have a lot of tribal football violence. It was some clubs, mainly London clubs, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong.
Oh, good. Sure, you've not heard that Glasgow Rangers or Glasgow Celtic.
Well, Rangers and Celtic is a different matter entirely. That's religious, if I remember correctly. But
it is based on it, but it's the same idea. They used that as an excuse. It was just basically Rangers and Celtic.
Oh yeah, ripping yards. But I remember football being described as a game where 22 men, what should say, a bunch of people fighting, and if they get bored, they kick a ball around the pitch. Because sometimes the violence was that prevalent for the spectators.
What I don't get is how they pretend that they're mortally wounded.
Oh,
and then voila, they're cured.
Well, we used to make jokes about Oscars. the Oscars going to. Magic Sponge and the Oscars go to. The Oscar for the art, I mean. But that
Okay.
the thing, I have to admit, to be honest, I did used to quite like watching Ski Sunday and some of the Winter Olympics for the. I've watched. I have watched ice skating. That's mainly because my parents used to watch the Olympics when it was on. Yes, I do know who Torben Dean is.
I used to ice skate. I never did it for ice hockey. I never did it for anything else. I just did it for fun. And I used to watch Torval and Dean and ice dance. And that was it.
Torval and Dean.
And Robin Cousins. Yeah. Robin Cousins. I mean,
I was more interested in the ice dance signals. I didn't care about male or female. It was just the ice dance. Basically, watching Besta Vanova and Buchan and Torval and Dean were amazing.
I love watching pairs skating.
They were fantastic. But I said, I mean, that was all I was ever really. I mean, even to the point. I mean, I'm quite aware that a lot, not all of it, obviously. I mean, tennis, for example, is an example exception, but a lot of sports of an Olympic athletic, especially when you get the events that a number of the decathlons, a lot of those are actually military based events, which is why you get horse riding, skiing, shooting, running. They're all the sort of things that would have a military background to them, but none of that interested me. I mean, I remember we did when I was at the TA, Total Royal Army, which is our closest event for the friends across the pond, would be the National Guard. I was very young at the time. We had a shooting range, 25-meter shooting range in our drill hall. Oh, there was a local gun club, usually using 2.2s. We were using 9mm. We had the Browning high power, which I believe, I mean, that was in use for example, the high power is what the SAS were using as a second weapon when they went into the Iranian embassy. There's a few stories of people where they had a stoppage on their submachine gun. They just went straight for the pistol. But the difference because we used to do combat shoots, you'd be two hands gun. You compare that, and I remember comparing that to what these guys were doing with the 2.2s and the rest of it. And the arm out, one hand, classicals you sometimes see in historical movies where they're doing a duel or something, cyber and I think, so you've got a gun that is so balanced, it fits your hand perfect. It's like archery. I see someone doing modern archery, I think, so you've got so many bits and pieces on that. I'm surprised you can miss. Oh, and you've got a balancing thing that's a bayonet. No, archery should be a bit of wood and a bit of string. But no, I mean, I know things, but even those things where we had a sporting version of something I enjoy doing never interested me.
Yeah, but I remember watching all those things, the archery, and you're sitting there thinking, that's not a bow. There's sticks sticking out front and back and sideways, and you're sitting. It's all to do with balance and stuff like that. Yeah. You're sitting there thinking, that's like turning around and saying, right, I'm going to shoot a rifle, but you're allowed to put it on actually a bolted stand so it doesn't kick back, and you're allowed to calibrate your rifle in the same stand, and you're sitting there thinking it's meant to be skill, no just a case of who can actually get the best technology.
One of the reasons generally given for why you need to have a license to use any sort of firearm, but you do not need a license for a crossbow. I was funny about the crossbows. I thought you did for crossbows, correct me, but especially for a bow, is that you can learn to use. You can effectively use a firearm within a week. To be good with a bow, there's a reason why English medieval archers started at 7 years old.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of practice to use a bow to military standard. And that's one of the reasons, because it's building up the body, it's a skill. As you said, whereas these days, the other thing that got me was I was watching something a while ago. I was having to watch about cycling, and I'm thinking, okay, so how much of the cycling is the athlete, how much is the design of the bike, and for crying out loud, the design of the gear they're wearing to cut down there to take 1/100th of a second off of their speed due to wind resistance.
Yeah. 1984 Sarajevo. Perfect sixes across the board. So sorry, it's just I saw the two then talking about Torland.
Well, I must admit the other things.
See, I quite agree with you about the technology stuff, because if you're getting guys who are going in, they're basically wearing these suits that are they basically are what is it? They're wind resistant. They basically
they're streamlined and all sorts of things.
They're streamlined and stuff like that. The Psycho is so light that you could pick it up with a pinky, and they're basically saying, "Yeah, it was all the rider." No, get the two of them a race that you can buy at the shops for £100. Then we'll see if it's the rider.
Yeah.
But if you've got the technology and the money behind you, you can actually have a Psycho that is so thin, it's like a razor blade, so light, you could literally run fast carrying it. And it's basically your outfit, Disney, your jumper doesn't go flap in the wind and actually cause 1/100th of a second draw and stuff like that. I've never understood why that is a sport. That is not a sport. That's a technology. All they're doing is the person doing the sport is just a very small part of it.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of, in a way, I suppose, think about it, it kind of is the modern version of the old, you got in the 670, do you remember the old jokes you got about the East German female wrestlers that looked like men? Because they were all doing they were using performance enhancing drugs.
It was a documentary about East German swimmers back in the 70s were all doped up.
Yeah,
remember Airplane?
One of them had been given so many steroids that she ended up saying, "Screw it, I'm just gonna finish it all and become a man." Because her life was just totally turned upside down.
Yeah. Remember, it was either a Police Academy episode or it was Airplane. It was the one about the Russia. I think it was the Police Academy in Russia. Remember, they met all the female gymnasts or the female sports people, and it was basically just all the guys, American footballers. Basically in outfits, and they were meant to be Russian athletes, female athletes. And it nowadays that's no longer a joke.
There was a I don't know if you guys ever heard of Mad Magazine.
Oh yes.
Okay, Mad Magazine, for those who don't know. What the hell is that?
That's
somebody's reversing.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Magazine. Colin's just getting his comics delivered.
Mad Magazine is it's not around anymore, but it was a satirical magazine aimed at mostly teenagers. So the humor was pretty sophomoric, but it was funny as hell. And in the interest of full disclosure, I went to high school with the children of one of the writers, and so we had access to it routinely. But anyway, they once had a spoof of the Olympic Games, and they were doing something like ancient Rome and the original ancient Greek games. And they said, like, the Babylonians, and they showed a quote unquote Babylonian woman, and it was really a man. And it's like, you might want to shave off your mustache.
Yeah. That's the thing. You get.
It was Mad Magazine.
Yeah, I was laughing at Peter basically said he had a racer. My brother used to have a racer, but I had a chopper, and after the chopper, I got a grifter. That was the one with the two big knobbly wheels rather than the front small and the big.
My bicycle was stolen. But anyway, so I know I ruined the story. You had to be there to see it. But the point was that this was in the 70s and 80s when the doping was rampant and they were making fun of it.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, everybody used to make jokes about it because it was so obvious. Yeah, I mean, nowadays it's no even a joke anymore. It's it's reality, and you're sitting there thinking it's like the weightlifter, the trans guy who won the weightlifting, and then he got upset because a guy declared himself female, so he could win it off him. And you're sitting there thinking, really? You're getting annoyed because somebody else came in and who was born male and actually says they're a woman and actually took your title off you. But you don't seem to have an issue when it was you taking the title off other people. But I think that's what. But the thing is, it's basically it's going to kill sport, because if it's all to do with winning, then why would you have a female on your team if you can get 11 guys?
Right. Well, I mean, think about it. The women who were taking steroids to be better than the other women, they ended up being banned from the sport.
Yep.
Meanwhile, you've got actual men who have natural testosterone, and it's okay. They're encouraged to take the places of women. I don't get it.
But I've even heard the argument that it's not going to change it that much. And I'm sitting there thinking,
excuse my language. It's bullshit.
Apart from anything else, right? You look at it down. The fact is, for professional sports, right? So amateur sports, maybe not. I doubt it, but maybe not. But professional sports. So if you've got the females football team, and you can have 11 transgender women.
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't you actually just have 11 transgender women then?
Right, because I don't know if you guys heard this, but apparently the U.S. women's national soccer team played a game against
the retired guys.
Right, and they got shellacked. And these were younger women.
Well, did you know they did that in England? And they actually, the ones who did they win, Colin? And they actually played 15-year-old boys. And
yes,
got beat in the States.
The American team, the American women's team played 15-year-old boys in Dallas, and they still got shellacked. How they can say that men and women aren't different is beyond me.
The argument, I mean, as I understand it, the argument completely ignores the fact that adults have been that it's not the amount, it's not just the amount of testosterone in the body at the time. It's the fact that a male, someone with XX chromosomes will have been through male puberty, and male puberty has different effects on the body than female puberty, which is why no matter what you get, even someone who's been through the full, as I understand it, the full thing, not meaning to be rude, but
right, no, I get it.
Still is going to have that if they've been through male puberty, which I'm sorry they should have been, because before puberty you're too young to understand what you're doing. But that's another argument. You can do anything
you want after 18, but before 18, sorry.
Yeah. But and you've got that. But so you've already been through the male puberty. You've got a male skeletal physiological. Right. So that's going to have a difference. And why is it you never ever see the argument the other way around?
Of course not, because it doesn't prove their point.
Yeah, but you never see, more to the point. Why do you never see stories of trans men?
Did you not see the TikTok? Was it the TikTok or Twitter about the trans guy who broke down in tears because he found being a man was too hard?
Yes, I've seen several of them.
Basically, so it's too hard being a man, accordingly.
Yeah.
But I thought it was actually just quite normal and quite natural. But the thing is, it's the same idea. All you hear is the activists, and that's the problem.
Exactly.
Activists in anything. You look at any walk of life, you look at anything. The activists are the ones with a big mouth. Doesn't matter if it's sport, doesn't matter if it's sex, doesn't matter if it's religion, doesn't matter. They're the ones, the mouthpieces that just talk as if everybody who has the same either beliefs or condition or whatever is the same. And it's not, and we know it's not. That's the thing. Because how many people do you turn around to when they say, as a man, I can say, and you're sitting there going, fucking speaking for me, pal. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, look at these people, these young, it's younger men who are trans women who are claiming to have menstrual cramps. How can you have menstrual cramps without ovaries and a uterus?
Because accordingly they do, even though you can't see them, because they believe they do, and that's all that matters.
To be honest,
I must admit, I wouldn't want to go anywhere near a medical practice at all, ever. Because you imagine somebody getting in, I've come in because I've got a hoot with my thingamabob. Okay, are you male or female? Well, if I could just told you what my problem is, what are you asking a stupid question like that for?
I mean, I can, to be honest, I can see the possibility of what you might call phantom pains, where someone's been through, they've done the transition. They don't know you're right, so they don't have the uterus, they all the rest of it, so they can't have. But where perhaps the mind can actually make them think they should be doing it. So psychosomatic, perhaps.
Right, fathers have been known to get
phantom pregnancy.
Pregnancy. Pregnancy issues like the weight gain and the bloating and whatever. I get that. But you can, I've seen TikTok videos of perfectly healthy young men who are transitioning to women who are saying, oh my God, I can't handle these menstrual pains. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
In that case, go and see a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Go and see a psychiatrist.
I mean, these people don't have the plumbing to have menstrual cramps, because without a uterus, because it's the uterus that's contracting during these things, you can't have menstrual cramps by definition.
Julie.
Yes.
I need to go and say this just for all the guys in the audience. La 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 la. I used to have to say that with my 3 sisters or my 3 daughters. La 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 la. I'm not listening.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, they can't.
Well, the most.
They just don't have the plumbing.
I know, but it's the same idea. You know what I mean, somebody becomes a vegetarian when they get rid of their meat and 2 veg, then complaining that they've got issues down there, and they're sitting there thinking, well, the issues are in the cupboard down there now, so you can't have the issues down here.
The most telling thing to me was when a certain person, who I shall not name, but apparently was connected to certain advertising campaigns, said that they are apparently now a lesbian.
Right, I heard that.
And want to become pregnant, want to find a nice girl this person can become pregnant by. No, in that case, you're straight.
Right.
No, but it's just basically, it's just a variation on the mental issue, because yes, he's straight, however, he wants to become pregnant.
Women don't behave like that. I hate to break news to him.
Of course not. That's the thing, is it's the same as anything. Like, as an American, Julie, you'll be able to correct me if I'm wrong. How many people say they're Scottish over there on certain days? They walk about with their kilt on. You know what I mean?
We do have Highland Games down here.
Yes, we have Highland Games here. Do you know the only people wearing kilts?
Right.
People who are competing.
Yeah. Well,
But it's that attitude. You become more Scottish as soon as you leave the country.
well, remember also, as we've discussed, ethnicity is not the same as nationality in the New World.
No.
It's just
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
And we get people on St. Patrick's Day who might have had, 1 gazillionth degree of Irishness, and they're playing it up.
Yeah, of course. But that's what I'm saying, because it's how many times
Because
it's
our
you.
nationality is not an ethnicity. It's not.
That's another thing. That's a thing I agree with. Graham may be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a specifically American thing, because you're Italian American, you're African American,
They do it in
you're
Canada
German
too.
American,
They do it in Canada too.
right? Here, I'm Scottish.
Right.
I'm not Italian Scottish. I'm not Irish Scottish. I'm Scottish. In Japan,
But don't
if
forget,
somebody's
there's
staying in
people-
Japan, they're not when they move out, or somebody's moved in and they've been there a lot of their life. They're
there's
Japanese.
not a whole lot of that though.
I know there's not a lot, but
I mean, I have cousins. Let me, they're not my cousins. My cousins, they have cousins on the other side of their family.
Mhm.
The father's white American, the mother's Japanese. They were raised in Japan and they were never fully accepted.
I
Ever.
think that,
Do you
what-
see the Chinese commercial for a washing machine?
yes.
yes, I
Yeah.
did.
That tells you a lot right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Peter, I had 2 Baileys at the weekend during the week
I
when I
love
was on
it.
holiday.
Oh,
Does
I
that mean
wish.
I'm more Irish this week than I was last week?
It seems to me, I don't know, maybe I'm out of touch, but it seems to me there's 3 different things that seem to get conflated. Nationality, which I would say is probably where you're born, probably. Ethnicity, which would be quote race unquote, and culture. And
Right.
the 3 things are not, because, for example, you get someone. I mean, one of the examples you tend to get with people when they're talking about language, you get someone who is born in China. If you get a Chinese couple move to America, and they have they don't go to ways, they move to America, they have a baby. That baby will grow up and will speak perfect American English.
Probably.
Right, and all things, as long as they're allowed to go up and to do so. So you've got their ethnicity. Their ethnicity there is Chinese.
Right.
But their nationality, or the child's nationality, will be American.
Correct.
And their
if
culture will probably be American.
Parents become citizens, their nationality is American.
Yes.
And the only quote, technically the only quote Chinese American is the parent. The children are American citizens of Chinese descent. I mean,
Yeah, they would class them. That's what I'm saying about how I would say about America is they would class that as a Chinese American, whereas to me,
oh, I
it's
agree.
American.
But it's not just in the US. They do it in Canada, and I've heard it in Australia too. They talk about, like Italian Australians or Italian Canadians. It's not just the US. Just the US.
I've never heard it in Canada or anything, but then again,
Canada's not as famous as the US.
Well, I was going to say, with all due respect to our Canadian friends, they're kind of half American and half American and either half English or half French.
I saw a Jimmy Carr routine where he was asking a question of somebody in the audience, and the guy said something about, and he answered the question. He said, "Oh, you're American," and the guy's like, "No, I'm Canadian." So Jimmy Carr said, "Oh, you're just like an American, except you don't have a gun."
Well, then again,
because our accents, outside of North America, the American and Canadian accents are pretty much indistinguishable.
Yes.
Yep.
But then again, let's be fair. The Canadians are so progressive. They elected a prime minister who can actually change the colour of his face. Can't
my
work to decide
God,
what colour his face is.
Oh, Justin Castro.
Yes,
I
he
don't
should
know
be
how
castrated.
I do not know how they elected him again. I just don't get it.
I suspect the same way that
It's because 90% of people who vote nowadays, they don't actually pay any attention.
They have
It's,
no
oh,
clue
he
what's
looks
going
good.
on.
Oh, he looks good, or he says the right words. The rest of
I-
it, they
That's the
don't
thing.
pay attention.
In here in the States, I mean, the Trumpists, I mean, I voted for Trump twice. And if he's the nominee again, I will vote for him again. I am what you can refer to as a yellow dog Republican. I would vote for yellow dog as long as it has an R after its name. And that is because I agree with Republican policies. I do not vote by whether or not I want to go out and have a beer with the person.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
Ron DeSantis, who's my state's governor, I love this man. And people are saying, well, he doesn't have any charisma. I don't care. I don't trust charisma. Barack Obama had charisma. I don't trust him.
See, that was the difference between me and my dad. My dad was a staunch Tory. Didn't matter what, Tory's the one he's voting for. Whereas me, I voted a lot of my life based on what their policies were. So sometimes I would vote Labour, sometimes Conservative, sometimes SNP. Then I went through a stage, a majority of my adult life was SNP until they lost the vote. And then I realised they're throwing out the toys with the pram because they don't care about the democracy as a majority rule. They want their way. That is it.
Yeah.
They don't care about the rest.
Well, that's
And
why I can't be a Democrat, because based on just on policies, there's not a single policy that they are promoting that I can back. Not a single one.
I would say that we've got we do actually have more than two parties in this country. Not that
We do too, but the other
I'd say
ones
not
don't
you,
have
but
it.
exactly. But one that used to be our third party,
Liberal Democrats.
Liberal Democrats, and
Well,
I
Nick
would say
Clegg.
that yes, exactly. I would say that they have got one thing in common. Well, they've got twice. They're twice as bad as the Democrats because they're twice misnamed. The Democrats are only misnamed once. Because there's
Well,
nothing,
how did
there's nothing
the
democratic about
Good
what they
Dems-
seem to want.
Then
then
how did
again,
they
that would be
side
liberal
with the
Democrat.
Tories?
That's where people get things wrong about America. True, it's not a democracy. It's
No, it never was.
Exactly.
It was intended to be.
It's a republic. It's
Yes.
a democratic republic.
We are a constitutional representative republic. We are not a democracy.
Yeah.
Never
So anybody keeps going on about they don't like the democratic way of, well, America doesn't have that.
No, we do not have a democracy. Never have, never. God
Yeah.
willing, never will. A pure democracy is nothing less than mob rule.
Exactly.
This is true.
That's why they changed the voting system in the UK, because it was democracy. That's why you now get proportional representation.
Well, people bitch and moan about the electoral college here not being quote unquote democratic, but you guys don't vote in a direct election for your prime minister. You vote for the party, and the party selects the prime minister.
That's it. We
normally the part, you know who's going to be the prime minister beforehand.
True, but it still means you have to vote for that party if you want that person.
We have. I think technically I think our system is a parliamentary system. It's kind of the reverse as I understand it, and this is mainly from watching The West Wing, so I might have slightly mistaken. No. Well, no, I know. Great. I mean, The West Wing was fantastic. The only problem is they got the wrong bloody party doing the nasties.
Well, of course.
But in our case, we vote for a party, and the leader of that party becomes prime minister.
Right.
You vote for a president, and that president becomes leader of your party, if I understand the system correctly.
Well, it's weird. He becomes the de facto leader of the party, even though he's not necessarily.
Right.
Because,
Okay.
for example,
Yeah,
Joe Biden is a Democrat. Does anybody here really believe he's the leader of the Democrats? Because he's not.
I'm not sure I believe.
Well, in all fairness, but the way I've heard that most Democrats are probably about as weak-minded. So it could be one of the more intelligent ones of them all.
It's basically Barack Obama's third term.
Yeah.
His people are have filled up that administration. This is Barack Obama's third term, and he can be
Well,
more or
him
less
and his
term.
husband might be enjoying that.
How many what?
Him and his husband may be
Oh, and
enjoying
his
it.
husband, yes, Big Mike.
But accordingly, Tucker dropped that. So he did.
Oh God! Oh, I heard Tucker's. Did you hear Tucker's
No,
show?
I just saw
Oh
basically
my
the headlines for it.
That I tell you, I was following Twitter on there. Oh my God! When he said that Barack Obama has a creepy personal life, I said, "Oh my God, you've done it! You've actually done it!" And then all of a sudden, there were people saying, "Did he say what I think he said?
Yeah.
Did he say what I think he said?"
Did you hear the? We'll finish up shortly, right?
Okay.
But we'll finish up on this because it's actually going to be a cracker. Because I'll probably get banned anyway. Did you hear the reason why transgenderism, or the rumor why transgenderism is being pushed so vehemently?
Uh-oh. To cut
And-
population?
No,
Oh yeah.
it's because Michelle Obama is wanting to stand as president.
Oh, I've heard that.
And that's what the rumor is. They're basically
After that.
pushing it so it's not a case of, oh my God.
Yeah.
But then
no,
she won't be the
I've
first
heard
black
similar-
female president if she.
I've heard similar things.
Yes,
Well,
but that's where the rumor has put it.
Right, because people are saying, and I'm not saying one way or the other, but people are coming out and saying, well, wait a minute, have you ever seen a picture of her pregnant? Ever.
Oh dear.
No, but I did see I did see Barack putting on a lot of weight for a wee while.
And there's been a bunch of men out there who said that they had moments, shall I say, with Barack.
But they basically, the thing is, when it comes down to it, if a politician is speaking, you know he's talking through a hole in his arse.
Oh,
Exactly.
God. They open their mouth, they're lying.
Yeah. And that's, to me, at one point, I used to actually, there was a few politicians I really liked. Now, if I'm voting for a politician, I'm voting for a politician I least hate,
Yep.
which is a bad thing.
There's a few I don't dislike.
Kerry Badenoch, I think, is a good one, but that's because she's new. I think once she's basically been in it for a wee while, she'll think the same as everybody else. What they do, accordingly, I heard this. What they do is, once you're in, right, you're in there for the right reasons, you want to change things, then it's a case of, just put that in your expenses, it's not a problem. No, you can actually claim that. If you just claim that, it's not a problem. It's allowed to be claimed. And then it's a case of, wait a minute, why are you putting that? Oh, wait a minute, you claimed that last week and you weren't supposed to. But you said, sorry. And it's a case of, have a wee bit. Oh, you've taken too much, you weren't allowed. Now you can't actually criticise me. And that's the way it's accordingly. They basically drag them in.
I think that is why Trump was such a change in 2016, and why I suspect he's not, even if he gets nomination and even if he gets in power, I don't think he'll be as effective because he wasn't in the system. The system will now be ready for him. As you said, the system is there. It's, you can get in, you can go into
any
Parliament,
politician that makes
and
money,
but
any politician that makes millions.
You've got your administration, your civil service, as we would call it.
The last politician who went in poor and left poor was Harry Truman.
Mm.
And that's
the same again. You look at it, they would say things like, yeah, it's an old boys club. Yeah, because a lot of the people into it is because they had the money behind them, they didn't need to work, so they went into politics. And that's why there was the old boys club. Now people go in, poor, come out rich, and say, "There's nothing wrong with it."
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
If Trump was one of the only ones who didn't take a salary and
No, he
lost
didn't.
money,
His whole
and
family,
lost
and
money
his
when he
daughter
was
worked
there.
in the administration. She didn't take a salary.
Yeah, and he lost money while he
Yeah.
was there. Everybody else who have been doing it. If you're a politician for 40 plus years and you've done nothing, why the hell are you president?
Don't get me
What's the
started
point?
on
Have
Joe
you got that
Biden.
much
The
Anyway.
man is worth millions, and he's never had a real job.
Yeah, I know. Tell us about it. Anyway, what we'll do is we'll start rounding up.
Okay.
Julie, is there anything on tomorrow you want to tell everybody about?
Well, tomorrow is the B Movie Show with Mr. Hyde and Wendology. And for anybody who doesn't know the B Movie Show, they have a usually god awful movie and absolutely stellar chat.
Yeah, they do. It is a fun movie. Sometimes the movies are actually fun,
Right.
even though they're bad fun. They're
It's our
basically
version of Mystery Science Theater 3000, and it is very, very fun.
yeah.
We have a
So,
blast, as several of you can attest.
yes. So that's Mr. Hyde's.
Mr. Hyde's B Movie channel with Wendology as the co-host, and that's tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. British Summer Time, 3:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time.
And god awful early for Japan.
Japan, forget it, you won't be there.
I can't even work it out.
The next day's a work day.
It's basically just half an hour later than
A miss, yes, exactly. You're not going to make it work if you hang out with us. I apologize, but it's really some of the most fun you'll have during the week. I can guarantee it.
Ideal. Gray, have you got anything coming up? Any good comics you're going to be reviewing?
Nothing really springs to mind at the moment, PJ. Maybe the new Spider-Man issue, which is out next Wednesday.
Ooh.
Looking for that one because I don't like Miles Morales. No matter what people say about, he's not this Spider-Man. He's a Spider-Man, and this new Spider-Verse thing, I've no interest in it, and I'm a big Spider-Man fan.
I'm not interested. I think I've seen the first. I saw the first Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. I'm not sure I've seen any of the other Spider-Man movies of any stripe. But apparently, this thing about this new one is a lot of people have been said it's very good. I've been put off by what I've seen of the cartoon styles, but that's personal taste. But apparently, the first 20 minutes or so before the credit titles aren't even anything to do with him. They're to do with Spidey Gwen, who may or may not be trans.
Yeah, but basically the fact is that after
all the pregnant Spider-Woman.
Yeah, after all the aggro about how imagine calling him, saying Miles Morales is not Spider-Man. Accordingly, in the Spider-Verse, he basically says he's realised who he is. He's Miles Morales, so he's not Spider-Man. He's basically admitted who he is, and he's not Spider-Man. So ideal. So you're maybe the next week it'll be Spider-Man comic. Colin, have you got anything coming up?
Not at the moment. We've got, of course, Friday. We have got Will I Survive Being Poisoned?
Maybe.
We get hopefully we theoretically got
hopefully, yeah. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
So you've got nothing on FFFFFI?
Yes, we have.
Alex, you're here just as we're leaving.
He's been sitting in the back. He's been sitting in the green room.
Well, okay. We have got something planned. We've got on the 3rd of July, Monday night with FFSI with me and Colin again, but we are going to be tackling a iconic British TV show probably at the end of the July.
At the what?
Now, Colin's got an obsession, an iconic British TV show.
At the end of July.
At the end of July. So, DJ, I haven't mentioned it yet. Can I
mention it?
Because I'm available the 3rd of July. We have a long weekend that day.
Yeah. Can I mention it?
Oh, you would, wouldn't you?
You mean you want to mention it?
Can I take a guess at what it's going to be then?
You can take a guess, but you can't reveal it to the audience.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. So I can say it, but you're not allowed to say yes or no.
I could do.
So it's supposed to be a surprise then.
Right, I'll
Well,
leave it as a surprise.
okay, right.
Okay.
This is an iconic British TV show from the 70s going into the 80s.
Oh dear.
I've been watching episodes so far. Colin's got a certain obsession about an episode with a man shoved down a woman's top with a hand grenade. Right, Colin?
Private chat.
No,
Private chat. Well,
nope.
no.
Right, so I would have got it wrong.
No, but all I can say, it's not MI5, it's CI5.
It's not
I
there yet.
like MI5.
They're not. They're not amateurs.
We are covering the professionals.
Which I never saw. Is that Gordon?
It is a superb
It
one.
is- Yep.
Martin
I think
Short,
the real one-
Mr. Hudson.
yeah,
One-
and Gordon Jackson.
One
Yeah,
of
Gordon
the
Jackson,
best.
sorry, I meant
one
that.
of the best impressions I think I've ever seen is I think it was Mike Yarwood, and he was
Yeah.
doing impressions, and he was doing Gordon Jackson, and he literally halfway through a sentence he starts off, he's being Mr. Hudson, he starts off saying, "Right, Rose, you serve dinner." Daisy, right, restaurant, and literally, okay, Bodie, dog, you go on the back. He literally in one sentence. The first half is upstairs, downstairs. The second half is the professionals.
Yep. So, well, we'll look forward to that. The professionals is always good, but that's next month.
Yeah, I don't
That's
know
into
that,
next
so I'll
month,
have to
yeah.
look into it.
You
Is it
need
on
to get a
YouTube?
couple of episodes, Julie. It's really good.
Is it on YouTube?
Dun 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 dun
Is it on
dun
YouTube?
dun.
It's also something I don't know if it's available because for a very long time it wasn't allowed to be reshown because
Oh.
Martin Short on the left there didn't want it. He didn't want it to be reshown. There was something like that, and he didn't give permission.
Well,
So
As opposed
that's ideal.
to the guy on the right who then decided that he was going to go and single-handedly rescue the American ambassador in a homage to Prince's Gate.
Is it on YouTube?
Do you want to see a parody of it? Watch the Detectors. Detectors.
no, detectives
Oh,
on the edge of...
The detectives.
Yeah,
The detective.
Jasper Carrot.
Jasper Carrot and Robert Powell.
Yeah, Robert Powell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they basically take the piss out of the professionals, the detectives.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's ideal. So,
Right, everybody.
ladies and gents, boys and girls, thank you for sticking with us. And join us next week for another one.
Yay!
Gray, Julie, Colin, Alec, and me wish you a very good night. And remember, we're not old. We're classic. Night.
Cheers.
Bye all.